Chapter 33:20. Master Nine Firmaments looked at Xiaohua eagerly. He didn't expect to get a definite answer from Xiaohua. He only needed a single word to prove Xiaohua's true purpose. Unfortunately, Xiaohua didn't answer yes, nor did he say which Daoist senior he was. Instead, he glanced at the crowd of demons and said indifferently, "This Xiao didn't come for any Daoist senior, nor do I represent any Daoist power. This Xiao represents the two words Xiaohua." After hearing this, Master Nine Firmaments frowned. He looked at this little Taoist who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth in confusion. If this Xiaohua didn't have a screw loose, then he must have some great divine ability. However, it was obvious that Venerable Master Nine Heavens could only see that Xiaohua had intentionally revealed a trace of his cultivation base as a Confucian cultivator, and his strength was only at the first grade of origin energy. He couldn't see anything else apart from Xiaohua's rash actions. Thus, Master Nine Firmaments looked at the beautiful Princess Baihua in the 9th pavilion, and fell into deep thought. However, Xiaohua's following words were like a bolt of lightning that fell into Master Nine Firmaments' ears. To tell you the truth, this Xiao didn't come for the baby of the radiant beast. This Xiao didn't even know what Master Nine Firmaments could bid for in this auction. This Xiao only wanted to get a few Taoist foundational cultivation methods. Xiaohua said calmly, "However, when this Xiao heard your plans, this Xiao had no choice but to participate in this auction." "Motherfucker. What do you mean?" Inhu roared loudly, causing the entire space to tremble. Xiaohua looked thin and weak, but his waist, which was straighter than bamboo, swayed slightly in the tiger's roar. However, no matter how much he swayed, he didn't bend in the slightest. His indifferent and calm voice continued to emerge from the tiger's roar. "Nothing. No matter how noble the radiant beast's bloodline is, no matter how supreme the radiant beast's soul is, no matter how precious the radiant beast's body is, it is still a life. A living life. There are many living things in this world. Humans, demons, livestock, insects, birds, beasts, and so on. They are all living things. No matter how noble or lowly they are, there is no difference. They are all equal." The so-called distinction between the noble and the lowly was nothing more than an artificial division. Although humans had the ability to eat birds and beasts and control livestock, human lives were not more precious than the lives of birds and beasts. Although humans were the food of demons, the lives of demons were not more precious than human lives. Being a light beast while being a lowly ant is a gift from the heavenly Tao. Every life is precious, unique, and should be respected. He despised his own life, killed the light beast's life, and wanted to use the light beast's life to increase his own life. This was disrespectful to his own life. Humans are human because they have humanity, understand human relations, respect life, and love life. Humans might not have a strong physical body, but they had a strong heart. It was a love filled with riches. I am not talented. I am not a scholarly scholar, nor am I a benevolent senior monk. However, I am a human. I am willing to use my identity as a Taoist cultivator and the unique human heart to bid for this light beast. I want to use my human heart to fight against your demon heart. I do not believe that there is no such thing as a kind human heart in this world. As for whether I can control this beast or not, there is no need for you fellow immortals to consider. I did not intend to control it. I will not refine its bloodline, I will not refine its soul, and I will not take over its body. I am willing to treat it as my own child. I will watch it grow, watch it become mighty, watch it laugh proudly at the world. Perhaps I will turn around and let it go. That would be normal. Clap, 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 clap. Just as the demons were stunned by Xiaohua's words, Hai Tian clapped and praised. "Little friend Xiao, you really have the heart of all living beings. Every word of yours is like a gem. I also have the same thoughts. I do not want to use this light beast for anything. I only want it to land in my Jiasa country and become my Jiasa country's guardian beast. It will receive the worship of my Jiasa country for the rest of its life. If little friend Xiao does not mind, you and I can join hands to bid for it." "Ha ha ha, this is really funny." The Stag King laughed loudly. "If I did not see it with my own eyes, I would have thought that it was those baldies from the Pure Land who came to bid. However, the ethics of your Confucian cultivator is no different from the scriptures of Buddhism. You are all hypocritical and righteous. You are all hypocritical and compassionate. This Hai Tian still has some sincerity and stated his purpose. He only wants to treat this light beast as the guardian beast of the country, and make the light beast work for Jiasa country for the rest of its life. This is admittedly much better than having its soul refined by others, but how is it different from me and the others? And you, little Taoist, are even more ridiculous. You, a human, have the qualifications to be the light beast's father? You still treat it as a child? You are really shameless. Who knows what you want to do with it? Xiao Hua's expression was the same as usual. He pointed his finger to the sky and then to the ground. He said with a smile, "What I have done, I have not let down the heavens and I have not let down the earth. There is no need for others to point fingers at me. The heavens are the heavens and the earth are the heavens. No one has the qualifications to make an oath. And I, Xiao, under the heavens, have no need to make an oath to others. Even if you win the bid, can you walk out of Bronze Pillar country?" Although Master Nine Heavens was angry and amused, thinking that he had met a bookworm little Taoist, he still asked with a smile, "If you don't do what you can, you are afraid. If you don't do what you can, you are brave. In this world, there are too many things that people don't do because of their fear. There are too many people like this. It doesn't matter if I am there or not. You might as well let me be a fool and do more things that I can't do." Xiao Hua did not directly answer Master Nine Heaven's words. Instead, his gaze swept across the faces of the demons and he said indifferently, "In the past, I was quite timid when doing things. I always thought about the future. Even if I had some ideas in my heart, the results would be different and things would not go as I wished. Now that I have experienced many trials and hardships, I understand that there are too many things in this world that are helpless and difficult. However, they are all tests of the heavens. If one cannot withstand this test, it will be difficult for one's heart to improve. Now this matter, since I have seen it, it is a test given to me by the heavens. I am willing to go against the flow, and do it." Xiao Hua's words were sonorous and powerful, and they came from the bottom of his heart. Rather than saying it to the demons, he might as well say it to himself. Unfortunately, the demons in the auction house were all strong-willed. The prince named Hai Tian was used to seeing all kinds of people. What kind of words had he not heard? They only treated these words as fodder for a joke. "Haha, how funny." King Stag laughed loudly. "Talking about human nature with demons like us in the Thousand Demon Sacred Realm? Are you a little Taoist hot-headed? Master Nine Heavens, what are you waiting for? I don't care about what Inhu said just now, but you are delaying again and again. You are actually listening to the crazy words of a little child here. If I didn't trust you and old monster Jifeng, I would have." Master Nine Heavens listened with a smile on his face, but his eyes were fixed on the light infant in the white ball of light. After such a long time, the infant was still in a frenzy. It used its hooves, head, and mouth to tear at the restrictions around it. Master Nine Heavens had never seen such a scene before. Master Nine Heavens narrowed his eyes. He rolled his eyes a few times, but did not look up. Now that he heard King Stag's rebuke, he raised his head with a smile and said, "King Mulu, I am not delaying. I am just thinking that you all are determined to get it. I wonder how long you will keep bidding. Just now, this little friend shall promise hundreds of millions of primal stones. Actually, it's not as I thought. Everyone will bid a price and send me a voice transmission. Hee, old man Nine Heavens, don't even think about it." Inhu sneered. "If that's the case, you can do whatever you want. How will others know? How about this?" Master Nine Heavens retracted his gaze from the light infant and looked at the crowd. "I already said before that the nine-child dragon steel will not be lent out. Since that's the case, let's see who can subdue the light infant first. Only then will they have the right to take it away." Damn it! Old monster Jifeng was furious when he heard this. Wasn't Master Nine Heavens picking up the wisdom of others? However, it just so happened that old monster Jifeng had nothing to say. That was because this Yahui was his to begin with. The problem was that he couldn't even subdue a Pegasus, so how could he subdue a light beast? However, seeing Ao Shuai's confidence, old monster Jifeng's heart was finally at ease. However, his heart slowly began to bleed. How could the price of Ao Shuai's primal stones be the same as Ao Shuai's? The current old monster Jifeng unconsciously and fiercely glared at Xiaohua. Xiaohua was originally his greatest trump card. However, this greatest card was still the same. However, it had already become his greatest obstacle. However, Yinhu frowned and said reluctantly, "Old man Nine Heavens, didn't you lend out the 9-child dragon steel before? Why aren't you lending it this time? I can add primal stones to it." Hee, if this light infant and the 9-child dragon steel are returned, I'm afraid I won't be able to clear my name. Master Nine Heavens didn't point it out, and explained with a faint smile. Yinhu was immediately put in a difficult position. He was the one who first aroused the suspicions of the demons towards Master Nine Heavens. Now Master Nine Heavens' counterattack had almost robbed him of his chance to bid. Yinhu didn't have full confidence in being able to subdue the light infant. "Alright." Stag King clapped his hands. "How do we begin? Do we attack together, or do we take turns?" "Naturally, we'll attack together." Ao Shuai glanced at Stag King, then inadvertently glanced at Xiaohua. Chapter 33:21. In fact, the current situation was already very clear. Ao Shuai didn't believe that Yinhu, who had stirred up trouble, had the ability to subdue the baby light beast. He also didn't think that Hai Tian, the prince of Jiasa Kingdom, would have a higher cultivation level than Yinhu. If Xiaohua didn't have Xiaohei's help, Ao Shuai wouldn't have taken Xiaohua seriously either. Then only the Stag King was left. Is that so? Master Nine Firmaments. Although the Stag King was speaking to Master Nine Firmaments, he also looked up at Ao Shuai. Their gazes seemed to spark in midair. "I'm afraid that's the only way." Master Nine Firmaments smiled bitterly. He looked at the stone wall and said, "This old man has some restrictions on this stone wall that can barely block the light beast's shadow. You two, three immortals, please do your best. Whoever can capture this light beast first can take it away. Of course, before this old man opens the 9 dragon steels, you 3 immortals still have to transmit your voice to this old man, and tell me how many spirit stones you're willing to pay." Xiaohua looked at the 2 demons who were waiting for him. After thinking for a while, he gave a number. This number was about the same as the previous bid. He also believed that the others wouldn't give a sky-high price. After waiting for the demons and the people to tacitly give their bids, Master Nine Firmaments flew up from where he was and rushed to the stone wall. He was some distance away from the 9 dragon steels. Then he opened his mouth and let out a mournful cry. Soon after, a faintly discernible demon bird suddenly flashed out. A dense demon aura split into 9 streams and rushed into the 9 steels. Boom! Rumbling sounds that could shake mountains and the earth came from the inky steel. The entire space that was enveloped by the 9 suns dragon steel rapidly trembled at the same time. The 9 suns dragon steel suddenly shrank and shot out in all directions. Roar! The baby light beast suppressed by the steels let out a mournful cry. Its body flashed with a brilliance that was several times sharper than the flying swords. This brilliance instantly pierced through the dark clouds that had lost the support of the 9 steels. The baby light beast, which was the size of a donkey, immediately broke free from its imprisonment. The baby light beast stretched its neck and let out a long cry. It didn't flee outside the space. Instead, it rushed recklessly toward the second pavilion. If it was before, Venerable Nine Heavens would still have some doubts, but when he saw the baby light beast's actions, a smile appeared on his face. Hai Tian naturally didn't know what was going on. When he saw the baby light beast charging in his direction, he immediately revealed a smug expression. He reached out his hand to take out his imperial equipment, wanting to take advantage of this opportunity to capture the baby light beast. Unfortunately, before his hand could reach into his bosom, there was a long cry. An array of light shocked the prince of the Jiasa kingdom. The long cry sounded like a bugle horn between the heavens and the earth. Tens of thousands of awe-inspiring chi swept in from all directions, causing all living things to fall under the awe-inspiring aura. The brilliance was purer than the brilliance of the sun, purer than the brilliance of the moon. The sudden heat wave even caused the restriction that protected the pavilion to collapse in an instant. Following the sound of the bugle horn, An old woman dressed in black appeared from the pavilion where the brilliance came from. Of course, the old woman's figure only appeared for a moment. Her black clothes turned into flying butterflies, and her body became even more messy. Accompanied by a pure white light, a body several times larger than the baby light beast appeared in front of everyone's eyes. As soon as the baby light beast appeared, it opened its mouth and roared, causing the entire space to tremble. Then the baby light beast shook its head, and waves of qi rushed out like a flood. This invisible qi was even more difficult to stop than a visible flood. Hai Tian was sent flying like an ant. Inhu was sent flying like a mouse that had seen a cat. King Stag and Ao Shui tried their best to take a few steps back, but they still tried their best to stabilize their bodies. Their eyes were dignified, and it was obvious that they wanted to contend with the baby light beast. Looking at the light beast cub, it was like a little pony that was jumping around in the air. It was like a swallow returning to its nest as it ran towards the light beast. The longing in its eyes, the attachment in its actions, and the coquettish cries it let out were really similar to a little Jiao heir that had just seen its mother. Fellow immortals, if we want to capture the baby light beast, we must first capture the baby light beast. Venerable Master Nine Firmament's face was filled with joy, and he said loudly, "Don't worry, this old man has set up this auction to capture this light beast. If you can help this old man capture this light beast, this old man will give this light beast cub to you for free." As soon as Guru Nine Firmaments finished speaking, the Nine Firmaments dragon's steel emitted a thick black demonic fog, and shot towards the auction like 9 tentacles. "Damn it, we've been tricked." Hearing Guru Nine Firmaments' words, both Inhu and King Stag were enlightened. How could they not know Guru Nine Firmaments' plan? However, with the baby light beast in front of them, who could resist the temptation in their hearts? "This old man will help you." The first to respond was naturally Ao Shui. With a wave of his hand, a golden brilliance flashed, and a medallion of vital energy flew out from his hand. As soon as it appeared in the air, it immediately produced strands of immortal music. Along with the music, inscriptions appeared in the air and circled around the medallion like flying shadows. The Immortal Law Medallion? Guru Nine Firmaments almost cried out when he saw the medallion, but he suppressed the excitement in his heart and slowly uttered the words. "That's right. This is the East Sea Immortal Law Medallion of the East Sea Dragon Palace, bestowed by the Immortal Emperor of the Immortal Palace." Ao Shui said proudly. He opened his dragon mouth and spat out a golden dragon's breath that landed on the medallion. The medallion emitted a golden light that spanned dozens of feet, and suddenly transformed into a bamboo slip that flew towards the light beast. As the bamboo slip flew, the shadows of the inscriptions on the armor broke through inch by inch, and a restrictive force that even 10,000 immortals couldn't resist completely enveloped the area around the light beast. Haha, the Immortal Law Chapter is only SOSO. The Immortal Law Chapter was so powerful in Guru Nine Firmament's eyes, but the other kings didn't care about it at all. The Stag King sneered and opened his mouth. His vital energy, which looked like a jade seal, came out of his mouth. This jade seal landed in the air, and a spiral of demonic fog appeared in the air. It was even more aggressive than the inscriptions on the armor. It dispersed the righteous qi summoned by the light beast. Moreover, this demonic fog carried with it a myriad of wind blades that looked like scythes that crushed towards the light beast. With loud rumbling sounds, it surpassed the Immortal Law Chapter, and rushed in front of the light beast. Roar! The light beast roared. The light around its body was like a sword that pierced towards the demonic fog of the 9 Children Dragon tablet. The demonic fog didn't seem to be a match for the light beast's light at all. It immediately turned into fine strands, and didn't pose any threat to the light beast at all. However, this light fell into the inscriptions on the armor of the Immortal Law Chapter, and was immediately absorbed by the inscriptions on the armor. The inscriptions on the armor became stronger and weaker. The Immortal Law Chapter wasn't much. The most powerful thing was still the Stag King's Jade Seal. Wherever the demonic fog of the Jade Seal went, the void was cut open. The light beast's light was also cut open by the wind blades of the demonic fog, and turned into fireflies. Poof! The light beast kicked its hooves and countless rui and golden flowers appeared. Some of them rushed towards the light beast's cub. At the same time, it opened its mouth and spat out a pure white, almost shapeless inner elixir. It crashed towards the Stag King's jade seal. Whether it was the jade seal or the inner elixir, they were both the final killing moves. However, it just so happened that the two most powerful weapons of destruction were the first to collide. With a muffled boom, waves of incomparable power were emitted from the two treasures of heaven and earth. No matter if it was the righteous aura, the monster, or the black aura from the Nine Suns dragon steel, they were all destroyed by this power. Even the light beast also retreated a few steps. The Stag King even somersaulted a few times in the air, and barely stood still. As for Xiaohua, under the powerful aura of the light beast, his whole body was submerged in it. It was as if he had never felt such a feeling before. Not only were his limbs weak, his whole body floated down from the air. Even his mouth and nose were unable to breathe. He was on the verge of drowning. Xiaohua was shocked and immediately used the sun shroud technique. An indescribable whirlwind stretched out from Xiaohua's body. The whirlwind accompanied the pressure released by Xiaohua, and tried its best to resist the aura of the light beast. It was at this moment that Xiaohua was powerless to look around. Suddenly, a sharp, invisible wind sword quietly attacked Xiaohua's back along with the chaotic aura of the entire arena. Ooh! Xiaohua was releasing his pressure, and was extremely sensitive to it. With a cold snort, he waved his hand and the wishful staff came out at the critical moment. With a bang, it was the tail of the wind sword. The second half of the wind sword instantly turned into a mess and was torn apart by the aura, but the first half pierced Xiaohua's back. Although Xiaohua had already tried his best to twist his body to avoid it, the wind sword still left a half-foot long and an inch-wide wound. The strange thing was that the wound did not seep out fresh blood in an ordinary manner. Wisps of black qi mixed with the glow of the fire flashed within the wound like threads. Following the lingering black qi, the wound swiftly healed, causing the wound to become increasingly small. Ouch! Xiaohua did not have time to look at the origin of the wind sword. Old monster Zhifeng's surprised voice came from there. Obviously, he saw the strangeness of Xiaohua's body. Xiaohua was furious and shouted, "Old monster Zhifeng, you're courting death." With that, Xiaohua urged the flying talisman and waved the wishful staff in the direction of old monster Zhifeng. Haha! Old monster Zhifeng might have seen Xiaohua's strange behavior, and even sensed Xiaohua's increasing pressure, but he still let out a cold laugh. He shook his arms, and an earthen yellow light flashed. A gigantic Dharma idol of a spirit rat appeared from his body. Before the Dharma idol could fully take shape, it opened its mouth, and thousands of wind swords and wind blades appeared around Xiaohua. They rained down on Xiaohua. Chapter 33-22. This guy really does have some tricks up his sleeve. Sensing the sharpness of these wind swords, Xiaohua didn't dare to be careless. He hurriedly waved his staff to protect himself, hoping not to make any mistakes. Seeing that the staff had broken the first wind swords, and that even more wind swords were coming from behind, Xiaohua really didn't have the power to fight back. It was also at this time that the Imperial Jade Seal and the inner core collided. The force was more powerful than the wind and swept through the entire space. Xiaohua's figure became unstable, and was once again flipped over in the air. Old monster Zhifeng was also unable to stand, his entire body tumbling in the air like a pellet. As for the wind swords attacking Xiaohua, they had already been shattered by the force. The force was so great that the 9 pavilions on the stone wall were completely exposed. The cultivators sitting inside all activated their origin tools and imperial tools, doing their best to resist the impact. They were completely helpless like fish in a moat caught in a fire at the city gate. The most pitiful were not the cultivators, but the light baby beast. It originally pounced on the light beast, but in the blink of an eye, the light beast had already exchanged several moves with the Stag King and Ao Shuai. Even Haitian and Yin, who couldn't participate in this kind of fight, let alone the light baby beast. The light beast's aura may not cause any harm to it, but the force of the impact suddenly lifted the light baby beast straight from the air to the top of the space. The light baby beast cried out, the anxiety in its heart more than panic. Just as the light baby beast stabilized its body, it didn't have time to rush at the light beast again. But then there was a rumbling sound. The 9 dragon steels that Master 9 Heavens had previously withdrawn to the surrounding space made a sound at the same time. From the dragon steels, Thick black gas gushed out. The black gas each took the appearance of the 9 dragon sons, and they bared their fangs and brandished their claws at the light baby beast. Ayo! The light baby beast let out a sorrowful cry. Its body emitted a strong brilliance, wanting to disperse the black gas. Unfortunately, the white brilliance only pierced the black gas and disappeared immediately. It didn't cause any threat. The light baby beast was angry. Its 4 hooves kicked wildly, producing a lot of clouds. Then it lowered its head and rushed at one of the dragon steels with its dragon horns. An extremely brilliant brilliance was rapidly brewing between the dragon horns. Clearly, this was the light infant beast going all out. Caught in the chaotic space, there was a sudden, excited cry of an eagle. Master Nine Heavens had also revealed his true form. A huge, ugly sparrow hawk flapped its pitch-black wings, and its claws flashed with a stench and death chi. It pounced towards the baby light beast, trying to stop it from attacking the dragon steel. The sparrow hawk flapped its wings and flew to the top of the baby light beast's head in the blink of an eye. Although the baby light beast's body was white like snow, the sparrow hawk's claws were as black as ink. Not only did it block the white light, it also pierced through the white light and grabbed the baby light beast's back. Aoo! The light infant beast let out a sorrowful cry. The brilliance around its body was greatly reduced, and the white light that was brewing between its dragon horns also disappeared. The light beast was enraged by the fact that the baby light beast was injured. With a thunderous sound, its entire body swelled up. Quick, let's attack at the same time. Ao Shuai saw that the light beast had swelled up and knew that it was not good, so he hurriedly shouted. Then the immortal law chapter in midair flashed with endless rays of light, and thousands of inscriptions rushed out from it, forming words and sentences. In the end, they gathered into pages of inscriptions, complementing the black chi of the 9 sons dragon steel, and fell towards the light beast. The black chi of the 9 sons dragon steel was surging violently, and the rays of light of the immortal law chapter were also imposing, and the sounds of chanting were loud and clear. However, when the 2 treasures converged, the light and darkness combined, and it was like a perfect pair of pearls and jade. An aura that was even more powerful than the light beast's aura rushed out from the treasures, but it did not move. It was like a powerful nightmare that could not be found anywhere, and it controlled the area around the light beast. Roar! The light beast roared angrily, and the entire space shook violently. However, the dazzling rays of light around the light beast suddenly disappeared, as if the scorching sun at noon had suddenly disappeared. Everyone's eyes darkened, and it was as if something extremely important was missing in their hearts. This doubt only lasted for a moment. An array of light that was even more dazzling than before, so dazzling that it directly pierced the heart, appeared in the light beast's chest. This dazzling light was heart-shaped, and it was only the size of a soybean, but its brilliance once again lit up the entire space. The light beast's body that could not be seen clearly before now looked like a transparent statue, and it was abnormally ferocious in the light and shadow. This light beast was several feet long, and its dragon head was one size larger than Ao Shuai's. However, there were some differences. The dragon horns were slightly curved, and the bright and dark runes on them were rhythmically moving like music. On the Chilan's body, the folds of palm-sized scales glowed. What was different from before was that the edges of the scales were abnormally dark, and only about 80% of the center of the scales shone brilliantly. The 4 thick bull legs were surrounded by countless auspicious clouds, and it really looked like an auspicious beast. Unfortunately, the light beast's bloodshot eyes were faintly flickering with flames, and it opened its ferocious mouth to let out an extremely angry roar. An ordinary man was innocent, but treasuring a jade ring would arouse the envy of others. Thump, thump, thump! The dazzling light in the light beast's heart beat 3 times like a heartbeat, and the light had already completely enveloped the light beast. The 3 heartbeats filled the entire space, and everyone, all the demons, and everything in the space, all beat 3 times at the same time. Without any surprise, the 9 children dragon steel and immortal law chapter's light curtain that encircled and suppressed the light beast also rippled 3 times like the black chi. Although these 3 ripples could be compared to a white horse passing by, the light curtain and black chi had already covered the light beast's body like a clap of thunder. Gugugugu! A burst of what seemed to be countless bubbles gushing out, as if the entire space was boiling. Xiaohua, who had just stabilized his body, couldn't help but float up and down. Not only did his meager magic power want to leave his meridians, even the blood vessels in his body felt like they were being sucked out. Damn, this light beast is so terrifying. Xiaohua turned pale with fright. Taking advantage of the flying talisman's effect, he hastily slid down and floated down to the nearest pavilion. Just as Xiaohua was about to get close to the pavilion, boom, a world-shaking sound rang out. The 9 children dragon steel's 9 dark clouds were blown apart, and the immortal law chapter's armor was shattered into fragments. The bodies of the 2 strange treasures even rushed towards the 4 walls of the space in an extremely sorry state. In the midst of this explosion, the light beast proudly flew out, rushing towards the light beast cub caught by the hawk owl's sharp claws. Just as the light beast's figure appeared, the Stag King's Imperial Jade Seal had already arrived. This Imperial Jade Seal had been accumulating power for a long time, and now it had already transformed into several zhang in size, completely covering the light beast. The light beast wasn't afraid in the slightest. Just as it was about to open its mouth and spit out its inner core lo, the light beast cub's mournful cry resounded through the entire space. Xiaohua raised his head and looked over. It was also at this moment that the light beast cub had already been caught by the hawk owl that venerable Master Nine Heavens had transformed into. Those sharp claws, which were several chi in size, had already grabbed the cub's back. Those pitch-black claws seemed to have captured the light. No matter how hard the white light tried to stretch within the claws, it was still unable to struggle free. On the contrary, a strand of blood flowed down the cub's back. Seeing this, Xiaohua's heart couldn't help but tighten. The light beast cub was only a cub. It probably hadn't suffered such pain before, right? Go! At this moment, Xiaohua was unable to help the light beast. He waved his hand, and the divine power centipede immediately rushed out of the space, flying towards the hawk owl. Xiaohua couldn't bear it anymore. How could the light beast use ordinary methods? The light beast's mouth opened slightly before closing. The light around its body became even brighter. Countless white runes appeared on the dragon horns on its head. Without the slightest hesitation, it directly collided with the Imperial Jade Seal. Rumble! The entire space once again emitted a deafening sound. The Imperial Jade Seal, which was several zhang in size, was sent flying at an angle. The light on the light beast's head also became slightly dimmer. However, the light beast didn't stop at all. It stomped its 4 hooves, causing the wind and clouds to surge as it rushed towards the hawk owl. The light beast was fast, but the divine power centipede was even faster. The divine power centipede had just left the space, and as if it didn't need Xiaohua's instructions, it flew towards the hawk owl that was surrounded by black chi. At first, Xiaohua was worried that the divine power centipede, which also had black chi, would be afraid of the light beast cub's light and wouldn't be able to get close. However, looking at the divine power centipede's valiant and spirited appearance, the light didn't have much effect on it. Of course, the divine power centipede was still somewhat afraid of the light beast cub's light. It attacked the hawk owl's legs. Seeing the divine power centipede that was only a few chi long, the hawk owl wasn't afraid at all. It spread its wings and a powerful tornado blew over, as if it wanted to sweep the divine power centipede away. Unexpectedly, the divine power centipede was like a boulder. Its body didn't even sway as it continued to rush towards the hawk owl's abdomen. At this moment, the hawk owl became anxious. It spread its wings, and there was actually a faint sound of wind and thunder. Crackle! The hawk owl pecked at the divine power centipede with its sharp beak. A pitch-black lightning actually rushed out from its beak and accurately hit the divine power centipede. The lightning was lingering around the divine power centipede's body. At the place where it was hit, apart from green smoke, there were also a few marks that looked like plum blossoms. The divine power centipede didn't seem to be injured. However, under the powerful lightning, the divine power centipede had no choice but to curl up into a ball. Although the divine power centipede didn't succeed, its help came at the right time. The moment the hawk owl spat out the wind and thunder, the light beast was already in front of it. Seeing that its enemy was right in front of it, the light beast didn't use any other methods. It curled up its body and rammed into the hawk owl. This collision was like a landslide. A whistling sound was heard, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, the righteous qi, and all other kinds of spiritual energy condensed into a pillar and rushed towards the hawk owl. The hawk owl had already prepared for the light beast's attack. However, the divine power centipede's interference just now had messed up his plan, and the light beast took this opportunity to ram into it. The hawk owl's wings sped up, and the sound of wind and thunder was heard. Countless black flames mixed with lightning flew out from its pitch-black wings. Furthermore, there was a foot-long lightning bolt that rushed out from its beak, and together with the wind and thunder on its wings, it attacked the light beast. Chapter 33:23. Crackle, crackle, rumble. Thousands of rumbling sounds reverberated through the space like a tsunami. The glaring brilliance dazzled everyone's eyes. Xiaohua's figure had just stabilized itself on the pavilion when it began to shake violently. Even the entire pavilion was on the verge of collapse. The dazzling collision ended with a heart-wrenching cry. A black shadow that was close to 10 feet in size flew into the sky like a kite with a broken string. It looked like it was about to crash into the stone wall of the space. The black feathers collided with one of the pavilions on the stone wall, causing the pavilion to fall from the stone wall in an even more chaotic manner. Several cultivators inside turned pale and flew out in a panic. They stopped in midair, not knowing what to do, and each of them used their own methods to protect themselves. As for the black feathers that had just sent the pavilion flying, there was another crack that was about 10 feet long. Light surged from the crack and rapidly corroded Hawk Owl's body. Around the crack, the black feathers that were several feet in size scattered all over the sky. Roar! The light beast that had injured Hawk Owl didn't stop. In a spurt of energy, it let out a long roar. Without waiting for Ao Shui, the Stag King, and the other demons to catch up, it immediately charged at Hawk Owl that had already lost its balance, preparing to kill it in one blow. The light beast's plan was naturally as it wished, but Hawk Owl's claws were still holding on to the baby light beast. Seeing the light beast attack again, Hawk Owl's claws tightened once more. Roar! The baby light beast couldn't help but let out another miserable cry. The baby light beast was connected to the heart. No matter if it was a human or a demon, when the light beast heard the miserable cry, its body couldn't help but tremble slightly. In the blink of an eye, another change occurred. Chi-chi-chi-chi, as if thousands of hippos were farting at the same time. Waves of fishy stench and sky-piercing sounds suddenly came from the four walls of the space. In particular, the 9 pavilions that the crowd and the demons were in suddenly shattered with these strange noises. Behind the 9 pavilions, 9 huge chrysanthemum-shaped holes were revealed. Thick black fog mixed with a fishy smell gushed out from the holes like bees. These 9 black fog were different from the fishy smell emitted from the stone walls. The moment they appeared, they immediately enveloped the light beast. At this moment, Venerable 9 Heavens Hawk Owl definitely had a plan to lure the light beast here. This black fog was most likely a huge ambush for Venerable 9 Heavens. Venerable 9 Heavens, the people and demons that were originally hiding in the pavilions had no choice but to fly out of the pavilions. Their bodies all flashed with various colors of light and fog, and even stepped on auspicious clouds to protect themselves as they shouted at Venerable 9 Heavens. At the same time, everyone and the demons were also alarmed. They ordered everyone to use their methods to protect themselves. The 9 indescribable black mists with a fishy stench were definitely powerful. The light beast's figure immediately dimmed. When Venerable 9 Heavens Hawk Owl saw this, a trace of joy flashed through its eyes. However, just as it revealed this joy, it suddenly sensed danger. It hurriedly spread its wings, and a jet of black lightning shot out from its beak. Its eyes revealed a shocked and angry expression. This was because the divine power centipede that had curled up to avoid the lightning took advantage of the Hawk Owl's ambush. It suddenly broke free from the lightning, and attacked the Hawk Owl like a black light, grabbing the light beast's left claw. The divine power centipede actually had such intelligence. It was actually able to seize this excellent opportunity. Even Xiaohua, who was watching from afar, was surprised. However, Xiaohua didn't have time to be surprised. He knew that he didn't have the strength to fly over to help the divine power centipede, so he didn't hesitate at all. With a wave of his hand, he took out the Pegasus from his storage bag and Little Black from the space. He only gave Little Black a command, then he activated the lightning flash and thunder roll technique, preparing to help the light beast. Since the divine power centipede was already like this, Little Black was even more clever. It didn't fly in the direction of the light beast's cub, but landed on the Pegasus head and commanded it to fly towards the hawk owl. The divine power centipede's speed was very fast, and it had planned to catch the hawk owl off guard. It had already hit the hawk owl's left claw when the lightning struck. There was almost no sound, but the tough hawk owl's left claw was actually smashed into pieces by the divine power centipede. The hawk owl was in great pain, and it couldn't help but let out a long cry. Its left claw loosened, and the light beast escaped from the hawk owl's left claw. After the divine power centipede succeeded, it didn't move an inch, and immediately curled up into a ball again. At this time, the hawk owl's wind and thunder had already arrived, and it hit the divine power centipede's body. With a crackling sound, thousands of lightning flashed on the divine power centipede's pitch-black body. Of course, looking at the divine power centipede's slightly trembling appearance, the lightning might not be able to hurt it at all. Unfortunately, although the divine power centipede's attack was effective, the hawk owl's right claw was still holding the light beast's cub. Furthermore, after the hawk owl's left claw was injured, it was going to attack the light beast's cub again. The light beast was still in danger. On the other hand, Little Black was commanding the Pegasus. When the Pegasus saw the hawk owl and the light beast's cub, it seemed to be hesitating. It wasn't clear if it was afraid or not. But Little Black was more resourceful than any other human or Yao. The Pegasus spread its wings, and its body emitted a light that was not inferior to the light beast's cub, and it rushed towards the hawk owl. However, even though they were fast, they were still slower than the hawk owl's left claw. The divine power centipede's attack was going to be wasted. Boom! Another loud sound rang out, and a solid pillar of light shot out from the pitch-black stench, shattering it. From the pillar of light, the light beast could be seen madly rushing out. It opened its mouth, and its noggin expanded to the size of a bucket. Like a meteorite, it flashed and disappeared in a flash. In the blink of an eye, it appeared above hawk owl's right claw. Crack! A crisp sound was heard, followed by a mournful cry. The poor hawk owl was injured again. The hawk owl's right claw was shattered, so it was naturally unable to grab the light beast's cub. The light beast escaped from the hawk owl's claws, and immediately rushed towards the light beast. However, the light beast that had just escaped from the black mist glanced at the Pegasus, and even at Xiaohua in the distance. Its gaze fell on Little Black, who was on top of the Pegasus' head, and its eyes were filled with fear and shock. However, the light beast didn't have time to think. The Immortal Law Chapter, the 9 Dragon Steel, and the Imperial Jade Seal that had been sent flying earlier, had already regrouped when it was trapped by the black mist. When the light beast broke through the black mist, these treasures had already surrounded the light beast once again. The light beast didn't dare to look at Little Black for too long. It suddenly turned its head, and actually looked at Xiaohua again. As if it had made a decision, a very dignified voice sounded in Xiaohua's ears. "Little guy, if thou can help me today, I will definitely repay thee in the future." Xiaohua's body shook. The light beast's aura was really too powerful. This simple sentence was like a bolt from the blue, shaking his ears and even his heart to rumble. Xiaohua was just about to reply, but the light beast's gaze had already fallen on the light beast's cub, and its eyes were filled with affection. Although the light beast didn't say anything, the light beast immediately stopped in midair, and its 4 hooves moved in a very spoiled manner. Then, as if it was playing, it flew towards the Pegasus that was flying towards it. Crack, crack, crack! How could the hawk owl allow the light beast's cub to land on the Pegasus' head? It opened its mouth, flapped its wings, and wind and thunder appeared out of thin air again. However, this time, hawk owl was not as sharp as before. Within a radius of 10 feet around him, the wind and clouds were also surging. Ka-cha-cha! Bursts of green light flashed past, and streaks of lightning were like a large net, completely covering hawk owl. This time, it was even more strange than hawk owl's wind and thunder, and it was even more concentrated. Ka the hawk owl let out a startled cry, but this cry seemed to be powerless within the millions of lightning bolts. The hawk owl was so shocked that it couldn't care less about chasing after the light beast's cub. It hurriedly reversed its wings, and its bird head was even more chaotic. One after another, lightning bolts went against the current to meet the green heavenly lightning. The 2 layers of lightning bolts each displayed their magical powers, and like 2 waves of thunderbolts, they began to make a heaven-shocking attack. Everyone, including all the demons, was shocked. They knew each other, and wanted to find out who had such a powerful ability. After all, if this lightning-attracting technique wasn't an innate magical ability, it couldn't be easily used. Now that everyone had been forced out of the pavilion, who could still keep their secrets? The concealment had been removed, and among them, there were quite a few humans and demons who had some impressions. However, after looking at it, no one could tell who had made the move. So much so that everyone's gaze was fixed on Xiaohua, who was slowly flying towards the hawk owl. Aside from the dark green color on Xiaohua's forehead, they couldn't see anything strange about him. It was as if he had nothing to do with the 2 words thunder and lightning that were even more vigorous than the flood dragon in midair. Of course, even if this lightning flashing thunder rolling thunder technique wasn't used by Xiaohua, at this moment, everyone and all the demons still attributed this technique to Xiaohua. After all, other than Xiaohua, no one had stood out, and no one dared to stand out. He was different from the others. That hawk owl was even more frightened than the others. He had already discovered the difference in this lightning from the thin and tough thunderstorm. He was clear in his heart that he had set up a restriction around this stone wall, completely isolating this space from the outside world. Even if there was an expert controlling lightning here, it was absolutely impossible for him to attract the heavenly lightning from outside this space. And he himself, relying on the innate magical ability of his demon body, was able to control the heavenly lightning within this space. This was originally one of his trump cards to capture the light beast, but he didn't expect that when the battle had just begun, this magical ability that could restrain the light beast would actually be broken by someone else. Who was this someone else? There was no need to say more. Other than that Xiaohua who had always kept a low profile, who else could it be? Hawk Owl's vicious and hateful gaze couldn't help but stare at Xiaohua. A kind of indescribable feeling emerged from the bottom of his heart. He had a kind of intuition. Today's matter would be exposed because of Xiaohua's appearance. However, before Hawk Owl could think more, the 2 layers of lightning had already collided. Chapter 33-24. Hawk Owl was caught in an impending predicament, but the light beast was already in trouble. Just as he finished instructing the light infant beast, the 9 dragon steels that were flying around him started to spin rapidly. The black fog that had been released earlier was sucked into the steels as it spun. Furthermore, the pungent black gas in the surroundings also seeped into the steels along with the black fog. Roar, roar! 9 dragon roars sounded out in a row, causing the entire space to shake once again. The black fog that was as thick as liquid earlier was like a giant whale sucking in water as it rushed into the bodies of the 9 dragon steels that were gradually revealing their true appearances. The 9 dragon steels, whose faces were ferocious and their bodies varied in size, grew larger and larger under the influence of the black fog. They blocked out most of the light beast's light. Not only that, but in the gaps where the 9 dragon steels could not cover, the Immortal's Law chapter, under Ao Shuai's control, turned into dozens of fluttering pages. They were like butterflies but also like words. They triggered a majestic noble chi. And together with the 9 dragon steels, they covered the light beast. The 9 dragon steels and the Immortal's Law chapter had revealed their final trump card. How could the Stag King's Imperial Jade Seal be slow? Shadows of the stag flew out from the Imperial Jade Seal, and formed an origin formation beside the 9 dragon steels. They attacked the light beast with the 2 treasures. And in this herd of stag, Yin, whose huge tiger-shaped inner core was also at the forefront. Everyone knew that if they could not defeat the light beast this time, they would not have another chance. With so many demons trying their best, how could the light beast not be in trouble? Unfortunately, the light beast was not as nervous as they thought. It even glanced at the lightning that was about to collide with each other, then shook its head, as if shaking off dirty water on its head. With this shake, the dragon horn on the top of the light beast's head shone again, but this time, the light was blood red. This blood-red light turned into strange runes that flowed from the dragon horn to the rest of its body like water. This flow was extremely fast. When the 9 dragon tablets, the Celestial Law chapter, the Imperial Jade Seal, and the tiger-shaped Niden completely surrounded the light beast, an indescribable force and a mysterious vortex gradually appeared around the light beast. Just as it was about to swallow the light beast, the runes had already flowed all over the light beast's body. The light beast proudly took a step forward. It was a simple step, but a blood-red shadow suddenly rushed out of the light beast's body. It was faster than the flashing light, and in the blink of an eye, it rushed past the 4 heavenly treasures. Pung Pung, the 9 suns dragon steel shook rapidly. The image of the 9 suns dragon steel cracked inch by inch, revealing many flaws. The Immortal's Law was also like a banana in the wind. After shaking a few times, it was also gradually torn apart. The image of the stag controlled by the Imperial Jade Seal was even more unbearable. Each and every one of them was howling in grief in the air. The most pitiful one was the tiger-shaped inner core. After the blood image passed, it actually turned into an empty shell. It first wrinkled, then turned into dust with the wind. Roar Inhu roared. His physical body withered not far away. Whoosh, before Inhu's howl could fade away, a flash of light faster than a shooting star rushed out of the 3 heavenly treasures and attacked Inhu. Inhu was shocked. Before he could even think of dodging, the dragon head of the light beast appeared in the flash of light. It opened its bloody mouth and swallowed Inhu's head with a roar. At the same time, the hooves that were stepping on the Jade Rui auspicious cloud stretched out. It was as if it was digging into mud, and it kicked Inhu's chest. After a flash of blood, the beating heart of the tiger was brought out. The light beast's movements were so fast that all the demons were caught off guard. In particular, the light beast took advantage of the time when Inhu's inner core was destroyed to kill him. Then it turned around and attacked the Deer King again. The Stag King was so frightened that he hurriedly retreated. The Imperial Jade Seal did not wait for the 9 suns dragon steel and the Immortal's Law to kill the light beast. It immediately flew in front of it to protect it. Little did it know that the light beast was just making a feint. Its body turned in midair, and its entire dragon head twisted. Its eyes emitted a ferocious glare as it charged at Ao Shui. Just as the light beast broke through the encirclement of several demons, and even succeeded in killing Inhu, the battle between Xiaohua and Hawk Owl was once again in a stalemate. 2 waves of lightning crashed together like a tidal wave. Xiaohua's lightning was obviously no match for Hawk Owl's dark wind and thunder. Under the heavy flashes of lightning and thunder, his lightning was annihilated. Seeing that, Xiaohua was not discouraged. He knew very well that his lightning and thunder technique was created with the help of the Green Seal script. The Green Seal script was the most mysterious script between heaven and earth. It had the power to move mountains and drain seas. It was not something he could control with his current soul cultivation. Furthermore, the lightning and thunder technique was created out of thin air. When it came to power, it was much inferior to the Taoist's lightning manipulation technique, which relied on external objects. Of course, Xiaohua was also somewhat looking forward to it. He did not know how much stronger the lightning and thunder technique would be once he mastered all the Green Seal scripts. However, even though the lightning flash and thunder roll technique was somewhat weak, it was superior in that it was continuous, growing and multiplying endlessly. Sparrowhawk Xiao incessantly flapped its wings, incessantly spitting out lightning from its mouth. However, Xiaohua's lightning was like a thin stream, like an unyielding candle in the wind, born and extinguished, born and extinguished, born and extinguished, endlessly consuming Sparrowhawk Xiao's wind and thunder. Seeing that it was actually being held back by Xiaohua, this little bug, Hawk Owl was anxious and hateful. It flapped its wings, and after dancing with a large amount of wind and thunder, it actually broke free from the lightning and thunder. Its already injured claws were like sharp weapons as it grabbed at Xiaohua. Although the sharp claws had not yet reached its body, the sharp sound of the wind and the whistling sound of the wind breaking through the air let everyone know that under this claw, even an origin tool would be torn apart, right? However, looking at Xiaohua again, seeing the claws coming at him, he did not panic at all. Instead, he raised the wishful staff in his hand and very casually welcomed the attack. It was like a kind of playful play. Boom! With a loud sound, the wishful staff hit the claws. Under the huge force, Xiaohua's face instantly turned pale. His whole body could not control itself, and was hit to the side. However, the strange thing was that the direction of the flying was really beyond everyone's expectations. It was not flying backwards, nor was it flying in any other direction. Instead, it had just landed on the left side of the Pegasus, and somewhat intimately stretched out its front hooves to explore the Pegasus's light feathers. Tell this little guy, don't struggle. Xiaohua hurriedly ordered Xiaohe, and then released his spiritual sense to send the light baby beast into the storage bag. It was not beyond Xiaohua's expectations. The light baby beast struggled extremely, and did not let his spiritual sense wrap around it. Even if Xiaohua wanted to protect the light baby beast, he could not. Forget it. Xiaohua tried a little more, but he knew that this was a dead end. Just as he was about to raise the wishful staff to block the flying hawk owl again, he suddenly frowned, and his eyes showed a ruthless color. At the same time, his figure rushed towards the hawk owl. The god power centipede that had just curled up into a ball moved again, like a dark sword shooting towards the side of the light baby beast. Pung! Somewhere in the air, a wave of fluctuations passed by, and the image of a very embarrassed Confucian scholar appeared. On the top of his head, there was a faint fluctuation of starlight. Wasn't that the ever-changing 10,000 scarf that he had just bought? Shameless Xiaohua coldly snorted. Seeing the Confucian scholar fly away in a hurry, he knew that the Confucian scholar had a guilty conscience. Seeing that he had revealed himself, he might not attack the light baby beast again. Holding the wishful staff in his hand, he still faced the incoming claws. At this time, the claws were sharper than before, and Xiaohua seemed to see the ruthless expression of Master Nine Firmaments who wanted to eat him alive. If it was before, Xiaohua might have pretended to panic, but now, Xiaohua's face was like water, and he did not have any pretentious thoughts. Just like before, the wishful staff in his hand was still whistling loudly, and it was very light as it hit the sharp claws of the hawk owl. But obviously, the hawk owl was not moved by Xiaohua's calmness. He thought that Xiaohua had some tricks up his sleeve, and his claws actually produced the sound of wind and thunder, and crashed down. The hawk owl was wrong, and very wrong. This was the feeling when his left claw, which was not shattered, touched the wishful staff. The painful blow not only defeated the wind and thunder, but also shattered the left claw. The hawk owl really did not understand. A little human, under the wishful staff, was several times more powerful than the divine power centipede. The hawk owl's claws were completely shattered, and his huge body could not maintain balance. Flapping his wings, he fell towards the stone wall. Xiaohua temporarily repelled the hawk owl, but he believed that the hawk owl was far from this strength. He only relied on the lightning flash and thunder roll, and the wishful staff to attack him. If the hawk owl attacked again, he was afraid that he would not be able to deal with it. So he swung the wishful staff, lowered his body slightly, and let the divine power centipede stand in front of him, waiting for the hawk owl's attack. His mind was racing, thinking of a way to deal with it. As for the light beast, it rushed madly towards Ao Shui. Ao Shui's eyes met the eyes of the light beast that looked very similar to him, and there was a trace of fear in his eyes. He hurriedly opened his mouth, and a dragon breath came out of his abdomen, rushing towards the light beast. Although the light beast had the head of a dragon, its body was that of a qilin. Seeing the dragon breath coming down, it hurriedly opened its mouth, and a pillar of white light rushed out, blocking the dragon breath. Then the light beast's whole body turned again, and it rushed towards the stag king again. The stag king had just stabilized his body, so how could he dare to fight the light beast again? The imperial jade seal shook again and turned into three, protecting his body tightly. Who knew that the light beast swayed in front of the stag king again, without any intention to attack the stag king. Its whole body turned into a stream of light, and rushed towards the hole where Xiaohua and the others had just fallen into. The light beast wanted to escape. The light beast's actions were truly out of everyone's expectations. Even Xiaohua was greatly shocked. Because the light beast did not inform him in advance, the light beast cub with the Pegasus also did not have any reaction. Let's go. Even though he was a little surprised, Xiaohua still did not dare to be negligent. He urged Little Black, and the Pegasus spread out its light feathers and fell under him. The light beast cub thought it was playing again, and it chased after it on a cloud. The Pegasus light feathers flashed, and it dragged Xiaohua a few feet away. Chapter 33:25. Seeing that the light beast's figure had reached the entrance of the cave, and the Pegasus had also followed, struggling forcefully, it was already too late for Hawkowl, who had landed on the stone wall, to use his magical power again. Ao Shuai and the Stag King were also unable to catch up for a while. Prince Haitian, who had just revealed his nose, saw that the situation was not right, and at this time, no one knew where he was hiding. It seemed that there was no demon or human that could stop the light beast and Xiaohua from escaping. However, Xiaohua's heart suddenly became alert. He looked at the hawkowl in confusion. Although it was flapping its wings, it was not anxious in the slightest. When he saw that there was not a single drop of water coming out of the cave, he hastily shouted, "Senior, be careful of the cave entrance. Yes, Master Nine Firmaments has been entangled with the light beast." Then what about Master Qingyu, who was with Master Nine Firmaments? Needless to say, she must be lying in ambush at the cave entrance, waiting to attack the light beast. Sure enough, just as Xiaohua's voice fell, there was a burst of walala sound of water. A clear spring water flowed out from the cave entrance again. This spring water looked very sparkling and translucent, but when the light beast's brilliance touched this spring water, it immediately made a sizzling sound. The brilliance that could not be covered by the black mist was actually completely corroded by this spring water. The light beast turned pale with fright and quickly retreated as if it had seen a ghost. It wasn't just the hole that the light beast had rushed out of that was spewing out clear spring water. The other 9 holes were also spewing out clear spring water. In fact, the entire space was shaking violently at the same time. Countless fist-sized spring water seeped out of the stone walls and dripped down from the stone walls like fine rain, sprinkling on the heads of the crowd and the demons. What is this thing? Xiaohua's mouth and nose suddenly smelled an unpleasant smell that made people vomit. It seemed to be rotten, but also seemed to be fishy, and even more so, it seemed to be sour. Xiaohua was surprised and did not dare to be negligent. He quickly waved the wishful steel staff, making it look as if the water could not be splashed. However, when the spring water fell on the wishful steel staff, it actually corroded it. Not good. Xiaohua shouted and hastily looked at the heavenly horse and the divine power centipede. Sure enough, the black mist around the divine power centipede's body was immediately melted by the spring water. The spring water fell on the divine power centipede's back, producing traces of green smoke. The light feathers of the Pegasus also showed signs of corrosion in the clear spring. While Xiaohua and the radiant beast were panicking, all the humans and demons in the auction house were also panicking. Ao Shuai pointed at the Immortal Law chapter, and the Immortal Law chapter turned into a brilliance that protected Ao Shuai's body. However, Ao Shuai's heart ached as he watched the clear spring water fall, and the Immortal Law seal's inscriptions corrode and disappear one by one. When he raised his eyes and swept his gaze over, he actually couldn't see any trace of Yin Xiao. The 9 dragons' steel from before had also disappeared. He couldn't help but fly into a rage. 9 heavens, old man, you've gone too far. If I escape from here, I will definitely kill you and Qingyu. Qingyu. Stag King seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly called out. This is Qingyu's ambush. Quick, let's think of a way. PFFF from the surroundings of the stone wall. An extremely dense black fog once again gushed out. This time, it was even denser than before and enveloped everyone. Moreover, at the same time the fog was produced, a gurgling sound like a fountain was emitted. An even more nauseating stench was emitted from under everyone's body. A gust of wind was heard. Old demon Jifeng, who was hiding in an unknown place, appeared far away from Xiaohua. Far away from the hurricane, layers of mucus gushed out from the abyss below the demons like a tidal wave. Within the mucus, there were actually some strange bones and half of the corpses that had been corroded. What is this? Why does it look so familiar? Not to mention Xiaohua. Even the demons were somewhat baffled as they looked at the black fog that was blown away in a radius of 1 zhang. They all thought this in their hearts at the same time. At this time, Haitian's originally very charming voice, at this time, was trembling, panicked and incredulous. Nine Heavens Master is the incarnation of Yan Xiao, then Master Qingyu. What is the incarnation of? Zhuangzi's Wandering the Carefree Journey says, in the northern underworld, there is a fish named Kuan. The Kuan is so big that it is unknown how many thousands of li it is. When it transforms into a bird, it is named Peng. The Peng's back is unknown how many thousands of li it is. When it flies in anger, its wings are like the clouds in the sky. If it is a bird, it will migrate to the southern underworld. Yan Xiao cannot compare to the Peng, and catfish cannot compare to the Kuan. This is inside catfish's body. Hai Tian's loud roar woke everyone from their dreams. All the demons came to their senses. That old demon Ji Feng even screamed. This old man has often heard that catfish's body is comparable to the Kuan. Moreover, its mouth is wide and its stomach is firm, able to swallow the world. Everything that falls into its mouth has no way of escaping. We have fallen into Nine Heavens Master's trap. This auction house's quiet room is catfish's stomach. That's right. No one would have thought that under the bridge of Bright Moon Lane in Bronze Pillar Country, the mysterious transportation formation would actually send everyone and the demons into catfish's body. That stone pillar Xiaohua saw when he turned around was catfish's throat? That stone pillar that looked like a fish's back was really catfish's back. It's useless to say more now. Nine Heavens Master already has the intention to kill us. We can only escape from here if we work together. Hai Tian was worthy of being a grand prince. He hurriedly called out, but when he spoke, he glanced at the light beast and the baby light beast next to him and hesitated. Swoosh! At this point, Xiaohua could no longer hide anything. He took out the clear water bottle from the saraira, but he was still cautious and hid it in his sleeve. With a wave of his hand, the thin layer of innate true water rushed out of the clear water bottle and turned into a thin layer of mist in midair, protecting him, the light beast, the heavenly horse, and the others. As for Hai Tian and the others, Xiaohua simply ignored them. Innate true water? Everyone and all the demons were shocked. How could they not understand when they saw the catfish's stomach juice immediately melt upon contact with the innate true water? Xiaohua Princess Bai Hua anxiously shouted from afar. Wait for a moment. Xiaohua frowned. He looked at the imperial equipment above Princess Bai Hua's head that looked like 100 flowers and shouted. This Xiao will work together with Senior Light to break this catfish's stomach. Okay, Princess Bai Hua understood Xiaohua's meaning. She knew that she could still hold on, but if she went over now, she would become a burden for him. It would be better to wait until she could no longer hold on, than let Xiaohua protect her. She also firmly believed that Xiaohua would not abandon her and leave. Senior, please. Xiaohua blocked the catfish's acid and respectfully said to the light beast. The light beast slightly nodded, but it was not in a hurry to fly away. Instead, its body rapidly flashed with brilliance. This brilliance brightened and dimmed in a rather rhythmic manner. Damn it. This Xiao understands. Xiaohua suddenly had the urge to slap his forehead. That's right. Apart from this light beast, there must be another light beast. One of them came to the auction in disguise, while the other was waiting outside. Sure enough, as the light beast's brilliance dimmed, the catfish's stomach suddenly began to tremble violently. Then, the brilliance around the light beast's body, like a slowly rising sun, became intense and dazzling again. Moreover, with this brilliance, the light beast's body rapidly expanded. 10 zhang, 20 zhang. It seemed that the light beast wanted to burst the catfish's stomach. However, when the light beast's ferocious appearance had only grown to about 400 feet, the catfish's stomach juice had increased, directly corroding the light beast's brilliance. The light beast's huge body trembled slightly, and then rapidly shrank. The monsters originally had the same idea as the light beast, but when they saw that even the powerful light beast was unable to resist the catfish's stomach fluid, they all looked at each other in dismay, their monster auras slowly retracting. Looking at the light beast again, after its body shrank, it did not speak and hurriedly flew up, rushing to the entrance of the cave where Xiaohua and the others had entered. Then, its whole body flashed with a blood-red brilliance again, and the runes on its dragon horns flowed again. Rumble the light beast rushed into a part of the stone wall, all of a sudden, its whole body like an awl piercing into it. This Xiao will help you. Xiaohua roared, waving the wishful steel staff in the same way, smashing towards that place. Poof, the wishful steel staff fell, revealing a big hole. And more black gas and acid mixed with blood rushed out. You all come too, Xiaohua looked around, seeing that there was no one else in the primordial true water, knowing that others would not see the situation here. He waved his hand, and Goldie also flew out. Under the light beast sphere, Goldie and Blackie flew to the two sides of the light beast. The two little generals opened their mouths and noses, and with two humph sounds, silver light spurted out from their mouths and noses, landing on the stone wall. The walls of the catfish's stomach melted faster than snow under the sun. As Xiaohua and the others went deeper, the catfish's body trembled even more violently, and more blood flowed out. Seeing the primordial true water enter the catfish's stomach, Ao Shuai and the other monsters had an inexplicable expression on their faces. They originally wanted to capture the light beast, but they did not expect that in the end, they would be saved by the light beast. And that unremarkable little Taoist of the Tao sect was even more indebted to the light beast. Let's go, Hai Tian sighed and waved his hand. No matter what, let's escape with our lives first. Ao Shuai looked at King Mulu, then looked at old monster Jifeng. Narrowing his eyes, he activated the immortal chapters to protect himself, and rushed into the hole where the primordial true water disappeared. Since the East Sea Dragon Palace's patrol envoy could break the rules, how could others not? None of them dared to be negligent and followed closely. The light beast, Goldie and Blackie activated their own abilities, trying their best to break the catfish's body. In the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the bloody light suddenly disappeared, and a pitch-black, warm passage appeared in front of everyone's eyes. In this passage, black tentacles like tree branches danced up and down. Just as Xiaohua was a little dazed, a powerful hurricane came from below everyone, rolling them up and sending them up high. Xiaohua was shocked, and just as he was about to activate the primordial true water to resist, he heard the light beast's voice beside his ear. Don't resist, let's go out first. Chapter 33-26. Yes, Senior. Xiaohua saw that although the radiance of the radiance beast was flickering as if it was breathing, it was much dimmer. He knew that the radiance beast was greatly exhausted and didn't dare to be negligent. He hurriedly withdrew the innate pure water and adjusted his body in the wind. He landed on the Pegasus and followed the radiance beast and its cub into the sky. Achoo! This was the loudest sneeze Xiaohua had ever heard in his life after he saw the dawn of the sky. He sat on the Pegasus and was swept into the sky by the powerful airwaves. When he scanned with his divine sense, he couldn't help but be startled. In the middle of the mountain range, there was a huge pitch-black fish about 100 miles long surrounded by black fog. Outside the fish, there was a sparrow hawk owl with a wingspan of more than 10 miles. It was controlling the huge Nine Suns dragon steel, and facing a radiance beast that was also flickering with a faint white light. This radiance beast was also huge, about a few miles long. It was standing on several acres of auspicious clouds, and was confronting the sparrow hawk owl majestically. Aolo seeing the other radiance beast, the radiance beast cub let out a long hiss and flew from the side of the radiance beast, rushing towards it. Aolo the other radiance beast let out a hiss, and the radiance around its body also weakened. Its body quickly shrank and seemed to have given up on attacking the catfish. Rumble taking advantage of this free time, the Nine Suns dragon steel landed on the catfish's body. The catfish's body shrank while the sparrow hawk owl grabbed the Nine Suns dragon steel with its sharp claws. It spread its wings and with the sound of wind and thunder, it threw the catfish into the distance like a bullet. Just when they were about to change direction, achoo, the catfish trembled again, and the other monsters and humans following behind Xiaohua were also thrown out by the catfish. However, their direction was different from Xiaohua's. Where do you think you're going? Xiaohua naturally didn't want to let these two monsters go. Just when he was about to control the Pegasus, one of the radiance beasts said in a low voice, "Let's go quickly. We're injured and can't fight these rascals. Since we know who did this to us, we can take their lives at any time." As the radiance beast's voice fell, the three radiance beasts let out a hiss, and rushed towards the opposite direction from Ao Shuai. Yes, Senior. When Xiaohua heard this, He hurriedly recalled the divine power centipede and the others. He patted the heavenly horse, and the heavenly horse waved its wings and chased after the radiance beast. 9 Firmament Old Man, give me your life. Ao Shuai was thrown out of the dimension by Catfish. Seeing Hawk Owl escaping with Catfish, Ao Shuai let out a loud roar. Golden light burst out from his body, and a golden dragon true body of 1,000 feet long appeared. The dragon swung its tail, and auspicious clouds swirled around its body as it chased after Hawk Owl. Ao Shuai had been deceived by Master Nine Heavens this time. On the night of the Hungry Ghost Festival, he had come empty-handed. If it weren't for Xiao Hua's information, he would have lost all face. Brother Ao, without waiting for Marshal Ao to fly up, old monster Jifeng had already shouted. This matter needs to be considered at length. There is no need to be in such a hurry to take revenge. Humph! Ao Shuai snorted coldly like thunder in the morning. My East Sea Dragon Palace has never suffered such a huge loss. I might not care, but the East Sea Dragon Palace cannot lose face. If I don't take 9 Firmament Old Man's head, how can I return to the East Sea Dragon Palace? Humph! Another cold voice shouted. The East Sea Dragon Palace does have face, but if fellow immortal Ao goes now, he can only become a skeleton that supports the East Sea Dragon Palace's face. Even the 2 light beasts don't dare to tangle with Hawk Owl and Catfish, but you, a 3-clawed little dragon, dare to provoke them. I can only say that you are tired of living. Whether I'm tired of living or not, that's my own business. Ao Shuai's dragon body flashed in the air. The Confucian cultivators and other demons that flew out with them had already dispersed. The Confucian cultivators flew to one place, and the demons flew to another. Only old monster Jifeng and King Stag remained in the air. Ao Shuai's gaze swept across the surroundings like lightning, and he said coldly, "What I know is that if you look down on the East Sea Dragon Palace, then I'm afraid you are tired of living. You don't know what's good for you." King Stag's face turned cold, and he was about to fly into a rage. Old monster Jifeng, who was beside him, saw that the situation was bad, and he hurriedly shouted, "Fellow immortals, please calm down. Have you ever thought about why Master Nine Heavens suddenly wanted to bid for the Light Beast cubs? Aren't they afraid of the Light Beasts? Moreover, it seems that they have already bid more than once or twice. Why haven't they been discovered by the Light Beasts? Also, I feel that although Master Nine Heavens and Master Qing Yu are powerful, they are no match for the 2 Light Beasts. Why didn't the 2 Light Beasts chase after them?" Also King Stag heard this, and although his face was still angry, he still made up an excuse. "Master Nine Heavens and Master Qing Yu actually dared to go against the world and secretly attack us. This is too inconceivable." Ao Shuai looked into the distance, and Hawk Owl and Catfish had already disappeared. The legend of Hawk Owl spreading its wings for 9,000 miles was not groundless. Since he saw that he could not chase after them, Ao Shuai's dragon body swayed, and the golden light receded, revealing his dragon head and human body. That dragon head was also puzzled. That's right. No matter how daring those 2 old demons are, they can't do anything to the East Sea Dragon Palace. This is why I believe in Master Nine Heavens. There must be something fishy going on. Alas, there are too many strange things in this world. This unforeseen event is too right. Seeing that his goal was achieved, old demon Jifeng did not want to say anything more. Today, I had 2 chances, and they were both destroyed by that little Taoist from the Tao sect speaking up to hear. Old demon Jifeng's rat teeth made creaking sounds as if he was biting Xiaohua's flesh. Old demon Jifeng, Ao Shuai sneered. "Of course, when you invited Xiaohua, didn't I tell you? Don't be too greedy. This Xiaohua looks very ordinary, but I don't fear you at all. If he didn't have anything to rely on, why would he follow you to the auction? Your plan to kill 2 birds with 1 stone can be considered to have turned into a bamboo basket drawing water for nothing. Who can you blame?" "Damn it." Old demon Jifeng stomped his feet in midair. "I just want to borrow Xiaohua's demon pet. I don't have any other thoughts, right?" "Whether or not you have any other thoughts, you know," Ao Shuai said indifferently, and raised his eyes to look in the direction the light beasts flew. He did not dare to release his Yuan Shen. He could afford to provoke Master Nine Heavens, but he did not dare to provoke the light beasts. Stag King frowned. He also looked into the distance and said curiously, "This little Taoist from the Taoist sect is strange. How can he have so many demon pets all of a sudden? Moreover, he is now related to the light beasts. I'm afraid he will benefit a lot from this in the future. Old demon Jifeng, you have to be careful in the future." "Humph, why should I be careful?" Old demon Jifeng puffed out his chest. "He is not a demon from the 1,000 demon sacred realm. What benefits can the light beasts give him? Even if he gives it to me, how can I, a demon, be afraid of a cultivator?" He Stag King rolled his eyes and said with a smile, "Old demon Jifeng, you didn't manage to get the light beast's bloodline this time. Do you have any other plans?" "What do you mean?" Old demon Jifeng rolled his eyes. "I don't think there is a need to tell you what plans I have, right?" Stag King glanced at Ao Shuai. He was not angry and said with a smile, "Actually, I didn't come to Hidden Immortal Continent just for this light beast's young. If you two are interested, we might as well find a place to talk. This matter is beneficial to us 3 demons." Out of Stag King's expectation, Ao Shuai and Old Demon Jifeng waved their hands at the same time. "I have other things to do. I'm not interested for the time being." After saying that, Ao Shuai glanced at Old Demon Jifeng and said to Stag King, "I have followed the Dragon Palace's orders. Some things have already taken shape. Now, I have to rush back to the East Sea to meet my Dragon King. Forgive me for not complicating things. I hope Brother Stag King can understand." It's fine," Stag King said with a smile. "This matter is still early. You won't delay your return from the East Sea." "Oh." Ao Shuai raised his eyebrows and said with a smile that was not a smile, "Brother Stag King came out of the 1,000 demon sacred realm and went to Hidden Immortal Continent. Could it be that there is a place in Hidden Immortal Continent that we can plot against?" It's useless to say more now." Stag King shook his head slightly. "If Brother Ao is interested, we can talk about it in detail after you return from the Dragon Palace." "Yes, I understand." Ao Shuai did not ask more. He glanced at Old Demon Jifeng and said with a smile, "Old Demon Jifeng, what about you? Don't you want to join in the fun?" Old Demon Jifeng frowned and said, "Yes, if I'm just going to join in the fun, why would I go?" "Old Demon Jifeng should go too," Stag King said with a smile. "Your wind escape technique might be useful." "All right," Old Demon Jifeng's eyes lit up and nodded. "Now I also have a place to go. When I return from there, how about I meet the 2 of you?" "Haha. Great. Stag King's body flashed with colorful light, and a huge deer body gradually appeared. "I'll wait for the news from the 2 of you. I hope the 2 of you can return safely." "Don't worry," hearing Stag King's voice transmission, Old Demon Jifeng said with a smile. "When I return from there, I won't let you down. Let's go. Seeing Stag King leave, Ao Shuai also cupped his hands and said to Old Demon Jifeng, "After a night of bidding, it was like a hangover from a spring night. Only a faint headache was left, and the flowers from last night were nowhere to be seen. Old Demon Jifeng, we'll meet again someday." "See you again, Patrol Envoy." Old Demon Jifeng did not dare to be negligent. He cupped his hands and sent them off. When the 2 demons were far away, Old Demon Jifeng stared hatefully at the direction Xiaohua left in. Ao Shuai was right. All of Old Demon Jifeng's preparations from last night's bidding were all for Xiaohua. How could he not feel hatred? Luckily, I have another place to go. Perhaps I'll be able to gain something." Old Demon Jifeng snorted coldly. His body turned into the wind and flew away. His ruthless words were still left in the wind. "When I return, I'll definitely find that little Taoist and make him suffer." Old Demon Jifeng was still wrong. He was only a demon and had read too few books. He did not know how to write the words 30 years of river, 30 years of river. Chapter 33-27. Xiaohua naturally didn't know that the old monster Jifeng already bore a grudge against him. At this moment, he was only sitting on the heavenly horse, following the light beast as it flew towards the place where the sun rose. His face was pure and holy. Moreover, he didn't know that in a certain place in Yu province, an even greater plot was slowly unfolding. The Hidden Immortal Continent was vast, and the vast majority of mortals wouldn't have the opportunity to completely travel through all 9 provinces in their lifetime. As one of the 9 provinces, Yu Province was a huge monster in the eyes of most mortals. Similarly, many people from Yu Province had never left Yu Province in their entire lives. The Chongli country was also part of Yu Province, but it was completely different from the state of Shi. The Chongli country was far to the south of Yu Province. Its climate was like spring all year round, and the Tuachuo River, which was several times wider than the Liao River, flowed through its borders. With such a pleasant climate, the Chongli country was not only rich in natural resources, but also had beautiful mountains and rivers and lush vegetation. It was a famous country of fish and rice within a radius of 10,000 miles. However, what truly made the Chongli country famous in Yu Province wasn't the scenery and wealth, but the towering Hanling Mountain in the middle of the Tuachuo River. Hanling Mountain was thousands of feet tall and several acres wide. It was like a jade pillar that supported the sky in the torrential river. It was truly a strange scene. However, this strange scene had only been a part of the Chongli country for thousands of years. Although people came to enjoy it, its reputation wasn't very prominent. Commoners who were slightly further away from the Chongli country might not have heard of this mountain. However, ever since Hanling Mountain was purchased by an unknown wealthy merchant from the Chongli country's king, and then offered to the Buddhist sect, the Buddhist sect built a Hanling temple on Hanling Mountain. Hanling Temple became famous in Yu Province. Not only was Hanling Temple the largest temple in Yu Province, but it was also the first temple in Yu Province that was recognized and built by the Buddhist sect. After Hanling Temple, the Buddhist sect built many more temples in Yu Province. Not to mention temples like the Small Gold Temple, which could be found in many villages and towns. Even temples like the Cloud Forest Temple could be found in many countries. However, due to Hanling Temple's special status, it attracted tens of thousands of devout pilgrims from Yu Province every day. Some even traveled thousands of miles to worship it. Hanling Temple was built at the peak of Hanling Mountain, and one could see the majestic temple by the Tuachuo River. However, it was not easy to go from Tuachuo River to Hanling Temple to offer incense and worship. Beside the Tuachuo River, there was an official ship of the Chongli Kingdom that would sail from the riverside to the Hanling Temple every hour. It would only stop at the ferry of Hanling Mountain before immediately returning to the ferry of the Chongli Kingdom. Although the official ship was large, it could only accommodate a limited number of people. Furthermore, the Chongli Kingdom only provided 2 official ships. Only a few hundred pilgrims could cross the Tuachuo River and come to Hanling Mountain each time. 10 ferries a day from morning to night only amounted to a few thousand pilgrims. What gave pilgrims a headache the most was that the official ship could not be booked in advance. They could only line up at the ferry every morning. As for the remaining pilgrims, they could only think of their own ways. They either hired their own boats or hired people to ferry them across on rafts. There were even people who crossed the Tuachuo River by themselves. The pilgrims finally arrived at the ferry of Hanling Mountain after much difficulty. Their test had only just begun. At this time, there was a path that led directly to the top of the mountain. This path had been specially built by the Buddhist sect to allow them to walk to the entrance of Hanling Temple. However, this path was not a smooth one. First of all, this path spiraled up the mountain. The mountain that was already thousands of feet high had now become thousands of feet high. Then the path was uneven and winding, making it even more difficult to walk than if there was no path at all. Moreover, there were no places to rest on the side of the path. All the pilgrims could only climb to the top of the mountain in one go. Otherwise, they would block the pilgrims behind them. There were 9 extremely dangerous places on this path. There was a cliff that was only wide enough for one person to walk sideways. There was also a suspension bridge in a bottomless mountain stream that swayed violently. There was also a narrow path at the top of the mountain that was as smooth as a fish's spine. There was also a stone staircase that was nearly straight, and could only be climbed using both hands and feet. In short, the abbot of Hanling Mountain did not wish for anyone to enter the temple to offer incense. He had set up numerous obstacles to hide Hanling Temple from everyone's view. These extremely dangerous places were not a gimmick of the Buddhist sect. They were real. Every year, or even every month, there would be pilgrims who would carelessly fall from these dangerous places, and their corpses would never be found. However, from a good point of view, humans had a kind of tenacity. From a bad point of view, humans had a kind of despicable nature. The more obstacles there were, the more people would go forward. Even the difficulties of Hanling Temple, these life-threatening dangers, could not stop the pilgrims from going forward. Most of them still passed through the mountain path and reached the top of Hanling Mountain. Thousands of bells at the top of the mountain. This saying was not wrong. When the pilgrims who passed the test arrived at the top of Hanling Mountain, although they were still far from Hanling Temple's entrance, the scene before them was enough to make them dizzy. It was enough for them to sincerely kneel down and worship. The top of the mountain was only a few acres, but it was completely covered in Buddhist light. No one could clearly see where this Buddhist light came from. Within the Buddhist light, there were also auspicious clouds lingering. Within the auspicious clouds, hundreds of ferocious beasts were like docile kittens. Sometimes they would walk around leisurely, and sometimes they would lie down peacefully. Occasionally, there would be little novice monks dressed in pure white robes who would mischievously ride on the ferocious beasts, hurrying on with their journey. Among the fierce beasts, there were naturally green cranes, antelopes, elks, and other wild animals. These wild animals were originally food for the fierce beasts, but they were also leisurely looking for grass. They were not afraid of the fierce beasts that were close by. Not only that, but there were also many lotuses blooming on both sides of the mountain path. They had no roots or stems and were very mysterious. These lotuses were all different in shape, and were not the ones commonly seen in Yu Province. Moreover, these lotuses were not fixed in one place and would often float in all directions. Whenever a few lotuses flew across the mountain path, a few lucky pilgrims would touch them with their hand. Immediately, a myriad of Buddhist lights would pour down from the lotuses and land on the pilgrims' bodies. Feeling refreshed was only a small matter. Many pilgrims with serious illnesses would immediately feel their illnesses disappear the moment they touched the lotuses. Their bodies would become much stronger. Even though many of the pilgrims couldn't touch the lotuses, their gazes would land on the leaves of the lotuses. Inside the lotuses, there would be countless good men and women, countless temples and countless young Buddhas. There were also strange flowers and plants, mountains, and rivers that they had never seen before. Seeing this phenomenon was the same as the villagers of Longevity Town who saw the Buddhist sex methods in front of the Shaojin Temple's stage. The first reaction of these devout pilgrims who had yet to see Hanling Temple's entrance was to chant Buddhist names and kowtow in gratitude. The moment they kowtowed, a bell chime, a Buddhist name, and a wooden fish appeared in their hearts. At the same time, they saw heavenly maidens, scattered flowers, and even the 10,000 Buddhas greeting the sect. All the Buddhist scriptures and all the legends of Buddha would appear the moment their eyes sank into the lotus. Not to mention these extremely devout pilgrims, even secular people with slightly weaker wills would fall into this Buddhist land and forget their previous suspicions. When the pilgrims escaped from the Buddhist kingdom, not only did their previous fatigue disappear, but their bodies and minds were also refreshed. They would even find themselves standing at the mountain gate of the Hanling Temple, without them knowing. After experiencing the baptism of the Buddhist sex methods, the pilgrims all knelt down and kowtowed. There wasn't only one mountain path before Hanling Temple's entrance. There was also a fork in the path before them. This fork led to a higher place in Hanling Mountain that was several dozen feet higher than Hanling Temple. How could the pilgrims who had already investigated the situation of Hanling Temple not know that this other mountain path led to the Buddhist pagoda and platform of Hanling Temple? Since it was another mountain path, it would definitely be another test. Beneath the pagoda were the relics of the deceased monks of Hanling Temple, and above the platform was a golden statue of Vairocana Buddha. Such a holy place was naturally not something that an ordinary person could reach. It was even said that ever since Hanling Temple was built, there had been extremely devout believers who had gone to the Buddhist pagoda to reminisce about the past eminent monks. However, no one had ever been able to go to the Buddhist altar to see the golden body of Mahavairocana. As for the reason, Hanling Temple explained it very well. In Yu Province, and even in the other 8 provinces of the hidden immortal continent, although there were many pilgrims who were fated with Buddha, this fate wasn't enough. These pilgrims still needed to cultivate for a long time before they could truly reach the level of a cultivator and see Buddha's golden statue. The answer given by the Confucian cultivators of the hidden immortal continent was different. They directly pointed out that the platform was empty and didn't have any golden statue of Buddha. Of course, the source of this answer was vague and no one directly came forward to verify it. The devout pilgrims of Yu province would never believe this groundless news. Every one of them would choose the mountain path that led to the platform. Unfortunately, just like the thousands of pilgrims, they would all fail in the end. They would either appear in front of Hanling Temple's entrance or return to the foot of Hanling Mountain. The pilgrims who failed wouldn't be dispirited and would carefully step into Hanling Temple's entrance again. Hanling Temple's mountain gate was extremely large, and the threshold was as high as an ordinary person's knee. Once one stepped over the mountain gate, they would be greeted by two extremely ferocious-looking vajras. One was fiery red, and the other was jade green. At this moment, a monk would immediately walk out from behind the mountain gate to receive them. When the pilgrims respectfully followed the monk past the two vajras and truly entered the mountain gate, they would be shocked by the tens of thousands of Buddhist halls in Hanling Temple and the countless incense sticks lingering in the air. They would be invigorated and prepare their own piety, offering their piety and incense sticks in front of every Buddha statue. Chapter 33:28. At this moment, the sun was rising from the east. The first wave of pilgrims had already entered the temple when the monk opened the gate. In the depths of the temple that was mysterious to the pilgrims, there were clusters of green plum blossoms surrounding a pavilion that was slightly taller than an ordinary building. The pavilion wasn't covered and there was even some fog inside. This fog carried the faint fragrance of green plum blossoms and didn't look like a Buddhist holy land at all. Not only that, within the hazy mist, a beautiful young man with rosy lips and white teeth was sitting cross-legged on a praying mat leisurely. If it wasn't for the fact that the youth had shaved his head and was wearing a yellow monk robe, anyone who saw him would think he was an elegant young master. A gentle breeze blew by and the sun came from the east. The young monk's figure slowly appeared as if the wind and light didn't want to disturb the young monk's cultivation. However, after the dust and shadow disappeared, the young monk's jade-like face slightly moved. His exquisite eyelids trembled, and he opened his eyes. His jade-like eyes were filled with a hint of displeasure. That displeasure was projected into the air. The light and dust also trembled and lotus-like shadows appeared in his eyes. The light and dust also turned into three-petal lotuses. Jingcheng, since you're already here, why don't you come in? The young monk's voice was like a pearl falling on a jade plate. It was incomparably clear and his slightly exposed teeth were even whiter than pearls. Haha, Ancestor Ci Mei, a slightly aged voice sounded from the pavilion in the distance. Soon after, the small door of the pavilion opened, and an old man wearing white monk robes appeared. Then the old man walked out from the pavilion, and slowly stepped on the green plum blossoms clustered around the pavilion, and landed in front of the young monk. Seeing the white beard and eyebrows on the old man's respectful face, the monk named Bright Moon and Beautiful Plum frowned. His eyes, which were filled with displeasure a moment ago, now had a look of pity. The old monk, Jingcheng, had a smile on his face. Just as he was about to put his palms together and pay his respects, he saw the undisguised regret in monk Ci Mei's eyes. He raised his eyebrows and then lowered his head and said, Jingcheng greets martial ancestor Ci Mei. We haven't seen each other for more than 10 years. An ancestor has already stepped into the lotus realm. This disciple is truly envious. Ba, Jingcheng Ci Mei raised one hand and chanted the name of Buddha. Stand up. Yes, Jingcheng got up and respectfully stood to the side without saying anything. Ci Mei raised her eyes to look at the dawn in the distance and sighed. She didn't make any movements, but her entire body slowly stood up from the praying mat and walked to the east side of the pavilion. Facing the rising sun, she asked in a low voice, Do you know why I called you here? Looking at Ci Mei's back, Jingcheng's eyes were filled with reverence and he hastily replied, Yes, this disciple knows. This disciple originally planned to personally report to Ancestor about Longevity Town, but because I had to arrange some secular affairs in Small Gold Temple, I wrote. Alas, Ci Mei sighed again. Without waiting for Jing Cheng to finish, she interrupted him and asked, Jing Cheng, how many years have you been the abbot of Ci Yin Temple? Jing Cheng was stunned. He clearly didn't expect Ci Mei to ask this question. However, he didn't dare to think too much and hastily replied. This disciple went to Ci Yin Temple to be the abbot. An ancestor personally recommended me. How could this disciple not know? It's already been 36 years and 3 months. Yes, you remember it very clearly. Ci Mei nodded, but there was no joy in her tone. Jing Cheng was even more stunned and hastily said with an apologetic smile. Ancestor, this disciple did something wrong? I hope Ancestor won't be stingy with your guidance. Actually, it can't be considered a mistake. Ci Mei shook her head slightly, but didn't turn around. She said, everyone has their own fate. Nothing in this world can be forced. When Jing Cheng heard this, he became even more anxious. He hastily took a step forward and put his palms together. He bowed and said, Ancestor, you watched this disciple grow up. Moreover, Ancestor has always been a role model in this disciple's heart. This disciple was able to become the abbot of Ci Yin Temple under the jurisdiction of Hanling Mountain, because Ancestor is also a role model for this disciple. I said you were wrong. You are really getting more and more wrong. Ci Mei flicked her sleeves and helped Jing Cheng up. She said indifferently, you and I are both Buddha's disciples. Everything we do is for the Buddha Lord. If there's a role model to follow, it's Ancestor Buddha. I have cultivated for many years, and have yet to attain any Buddhist results. Why are you imitating me? It's just 50 steps to learn 100 steps. When Jing Cheng heard this, he said in all seriousness, Ancestor is wrong. This disciple naturally places great importance on the Buddha Lord and the future of the Buddhist sect, but that is this disciple's lifelong pursuit. Ancestor is the benchmark in this disciple's heart. Every time this disciple encounters difficulties, the distant shore gives this disciple hope. However, the nearby benchmark gives this disciple the motivation to move forward. Ci Mei smiled slightly. That smile was like a blooming lotus. She said, then let me ask you, is the matter of Longevity Town's Shaojin Temple more important? Or is the news of senior brother Ci Hang more important? This Jing Cheng was somewhat puzzled. This disciple has already passed the news of Ancestor Ci Hang to Ancestor Ci Hang. There is nothing else important. This disciple is not talented, and has not been able to find Ancestor Ci Hang's whereabouts. In order to prevent Chongyin's sect from gaining the upper hand in Longevity Town, this disciple hurriedly sent junior brother Jing Mo to Longevity Town to become the abbot of Shaojin Temple. Taking advantage of the shadow left behind by Ancestor Ci Hang, this disciple firmly rooted Shaojin Temple in Longevity Town. Has Jing Mo gone to Longevity Town? Ci Mei asked indifferently. Of course not. This disciple is waiting for Hanling Temple's Buddhist edict. Jing Cheng hurriedly said, although this disciple can directly appoint the abbot of Shaojin Temple, the number of people in Longevity Town today is truly beyond this disciple's expectations. Every day, tens of thousands of benefactors come from all directions to Longevity Town's Rivertide Temple to worship Ancestor Ci Hang's statue. This kind of grand occasion, this disciple does not dare to arbitrarily decide. Hearing this, Ci Mei's tone softened. She asked, according to what you said, there are already many villagers and laymen gathered in Longevity Town. They spontaneously want to erect a Tianzhong golden body for senior brother Ci Hang? Yes. Speaking of this, Jing Cheng's eyes lit up. Someone suggested this before Xingchen left Longevity Town. This suggestion was immediately accepted by all the benefactors. When Xingchen left Longevity Town, they had already prepared a lot of money. However, alas, our Buddhist sect does not have a golden body on the hidden immortal continent. Moreover, Ancestor Ci Hang has not truly attained fruition. Therefore, this disciple can only tell you about this matter. At this point, Jing Cheng's face suddenly revealed shock. He looked at Ci Mei with an incredulous expression and hurriedly said, Ancestor, you mean, this disciple should focus on erecting a golden body for senior brother Ci Hang instead of hurriedly dispatching the abbot of Shaojin Temple? Unfortunately, Mai completely ignored him. She turned her head and asked indifferently, "Did Xingqian come with you?" Yes, this disciple received ancestors' verbal order and immediately rushed over with Xingqian. Jingqing nodded. This disciple took a short rest and waited in front of ancestors' door. After meeting ancestor, I will have Xingqian come over and kowtow to ancestor. However, what is wrong with this disciple's arrangement? You still asked in the end. Mai sighed. Jingqing, if you don't get rid of the obsession and secular thoughts in your heart, I'm afraid you will never attain fruition in this lifetime. Jingqing was greatly shocked and hurriedly asked, "This disciple knows his mistake. Ancestor, please teach me." Don't be too shocked. Mai said with a smile. I haven't attained fruition yet, so why are you so anxious? Just now, I said that you shouldn't leave behind any obsession. Isn't this obsession? Alas, Jingqing thought for a moment and immediately came to a realization. He put his palms together and said, Ba. Ancestors' teachings are right. This disciple has been the abbot of Ci Yin Temple for more than 30 years. Every day, I have to work hard on secular affairs. The obsession in my heart has become increasingly deep. I even remember clearly how long I have been abbot. How is this different from the secular government? This disciple's Buddhist cultivation has long fallen into a disadvantageous position. Mai nodded and said, You are right. You are a Buddhist disciple. There are some things that you must always remember, and some things that you must always forget. The cultivation base of Buddhism sect and the divine abilities of Buddhism sect are of no benefit to us Buddhist disciples. They are merely some divine abilities to subdue evil. They are not the foundation of us Buddhist disciples. Doing good deeds and achieving enlightenment is the ultimate pursuit of us Buddhist disciples. Yes, this disciple understands. Jingqing naturally thought of the compliments he had said to Mai when he first met her. He answered very shamefully. Mai said again, Ba. Although you and I are different in age and cultivation, we are both Buddhist disciples. The secular etiquette doesn't have to be firmly followed. You don't have to get up so early, and you shouldn't wait respectfully in the pavilion. If your heart is immersed in these secular thoughts, it will be difficult for you to make any progress in your Buddhist cultivation. This disciple understands. This disciple will keep it in mind and constantly remind myself. Jingqing smiled bitterly. This kind of respectful etiquette was what the other monks in Yunlin Temple did when they paid their respects to him. He had seen it for more than 30 years and had long been used to it. Now he naturally took it out to greet Mai. How could he have known that this was the secular practice and was different from the Buddhist sect's rules? I won't say much. Mai smiled again and said, You have done well in the country of Shi. You have made great contributions. Our Buddhist sect's prosperity in the country of Shi is obvious to all the bodhisattvas of the hidden immortal continent. It's just that you have heard and seen too many secular affairs, resulting in today's bad consequences. As long as you wake up a little, you can correct it. Your future is limitless. It is also very possible to attain fruition. Speaking of this, Mai smiled bitterly again and said, Not to mention you, even I, when I heard that senior brother Hang almost attained the Bodhisattva Buddha fruit, almost lost my mind. Chapter 33-29. That's right. Jingqing smiled wryly. Disciple can't compare to Grandmaster. I was in a daze for half a day. Disciple couldn't figure out how the hundreds of thousands of villagers in Longevity Town could help Grandmaster Hang attain fruition. What's more, he didn't seem to care about the Buddhist fruit at all. According to Xingqian, Grandmaster Hang didn't react at all to the fact that he didn't attain fruition, and just left. Disciple can't compare to such a pure heart. Call Xingqian over. Mai waved her hand. I'm also very curious. The power of will from hundreds of thousands of villagers can't help our Buddhist sect's bodhisattva attain fruition. I want to ask in detail. Yes, disciple will call Xingqian over right away. Jingqing didn't dare delay, and hurriedly got up. Just as he was about to fly out of the pavilion, he suddenly seemed to realize something. He stopped, looked around, and walked down the steps next to the pavilion. When his figure disappeared among the plum trees, Ci Mei revealed a faint smile. However, this smile disappeared in a flash. Ci Mei raised her head to look at the sunlight again and said in a low voice, Ci Hang, which senior brother is this Ci Hang? After a short while, Xingchen followed Jingcheng to the pavilion. In front of Ci Mei, Xingchen was like a little novice monk. He was very respectful and careful. After he recounted everything that had happened in the Longevity Town, he answered dozens of questions from Ci Mei. It was only when Xingchen's forehead was covered in sweat that Ci Mei waved her hand, indicating for him to leave. After Xingchen bowed and left carefully, Jingqing looked at Ci Mei, who closed her eyes and pondered. He didn't dare to speak and could only stand there quietly. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Ci Mei suddenly asked, Jingqing, what do you think of this matter? Disciple Jingqing was startled and immediately said, Disciple feels that this is an excellent opportunity for our Buddhist sect to defeat the Confucian cultivators in Longevity Town. As long as we guide the ascetics into Longevity Town, Longevity Academy definitely won't be able to establish itself in Longevity Town. Jingqing, you're wrong, Ci Mei said decisively, completely wrong. This. Jingqing was even more shocked and hurriedly said, Grandmaster, please enlighten me. The Confucian cultivators of Immortality Town don't need to care. They have no place in Immortality Town, Ci Mei says with a smile. Moreover, Longevity Town is the #1 town where my Buddhist sect defeated Confucian cultivators in Hidden Immortal Continent. Disciple doesn't see far enough. Grandmaster, please teach me. How could Jingqing have Ci Mei's vision? Zhang Xian hurriedly asked. Jingqing, tell me, why was senior brother Cihang able to attain fruition? And it was the Bodhisattva Buddha fruit? Why didn't you succeed? I only know that in order to attain fruition, one must practice good deeds and recite Buddhist scriptures. Different good deeds lead to different Buddha fruits. How many good deeds do you think the Bodhisattva Buddha fruit needs? Ci Mei asked with interest. No matter what. I need at least 1,000,000 good deeds, right? Jingqing hesitated. After all, the Bodhisattva Buddha fruit was too far away for him. Alas, that's not all. Ci Mei sighs slightly and says, attaining fruition is very complicated and can't be explained by simple good deeds. However, if we use the 9 levels of essence energy to measure the cultivation strength of the 3 continents, the Buddhist sect's Buddha fruit can also be calculated simply by good deeds. As far as I know, the most basic indigo Buddha fruit needs 300,000 good deeds to attain fruition, and the venerable Buddha fruit is 3 times more than the indigo Buddha fruit. Ah, that much? Jingqing is shocked. Even if there are so many good deeds, it might not be enough to attain fruition. Ci Mei says, it's also related to the cultivation of the Arhat, karma, Buddhist fate, believer's wish energy, and so on. Grandmaster, let's not talk about other things, but just the good deeds. Jingqing says after some calculation. If you want to attain the Bodhisattva Buddha fruit, you need 90,000,000 good deeds. Even the wish energy and belief of hundreds of thousands of villagers in Immortality Town isn't enough for Grandmaster Cihang to attain the Bodhisattva Buddha fruit, right? Indeed, Ci Mei nodded. This is the reason why I asked you to bring Xingchen here. I've been thinking about it for a long time, but I really don't understand how senior brother Cihang can attain such a great Buddha fruit. I've already asked all the disciples to check the records of the Buddhist sect and Confucian cultivators, and even the history of Immortality Town, but I couldn't find the origin of Grandmaster Cihang, Jingqing says. Even according to the villagers of Immortality Town, it's hard to determine when Grandmaster Cihang appeared in Immortality Town. Some say it was 100 years, some say it was 1,000 years, and some say it was 10,000 years. No matter what, senior brother Cihang has been to Immortality Town in the past. Otherwise, he wouldn't have left a statue in Jiangqiao Temple for people to worship. Ci Mei says with a nod. Senior brother Cihang also cultivates with hair. Could he be a lay disciple of the Buddhist sect? Jingqing probed. Ci Mei looks at Jingqing and shakes her head. If he were a lay disciple, he definitely wouldn't have the Dharma name of Cihang. Don't doubt this point. Jingqing's face turns red and he quickly says, Disciple doesn't dare, this is only my guess. This involves some secrets of the Buddhist sect. You haven't cultivated in the Buddhist temple in the Pure Land world, so you probably don't know. May doesn't blame him and says, even I only found these records in the scripture pavilion after I took over Hanliang Temple. Jingqing puts his hands together and says seriously, if it involves the secrets of the Buddhist sect, Grand Master doesn't need to tell disciple. May smiles at Jingqing and says, that's right, it's true. Even if you don't want to know, I'll tell you. Even if you beg me, I won't tell you what you shouldn't know. You only need to understand this today to have a chance of attaining enlightenment. Yes, disciple understands. Jingqing calmly nodded. There was a look of understanding on his white-haired face. Actually, it's not much of a secret. Jingqing doesn't want to know anymore. May says seriously, our Buddhist sect has many branches. Some are Mahayana Buddhism, some are Hinayana Buddhism, and some are the 10 Buddhist sects. Yes, disciple knows. Our Hanliang Temple belongs to the Tiantai sect. Jingqing says with a smile, it seems that in addition to the Tantric sect, there are other sects like Complete Sect, Xing Sect, Xiang Sect, Virtuous Head Sect, Zen Sect, Pure Land Sect, and Vinaya Sect. Yes, that's true. May nods. However, before the Buddhist light of the Pure Land world shone on the hidden immortal continent, or perhaps before the formation of the 10 Buddhist sects, there was a Buddhist sect disciple with a completely different cultivation method from us. They were called Duda. Duda is also called Duda Xing, Duda Matters, and Duda Meritorious Virtue. It means to get rid of dirt and worries. It means to get rid of greed for clothes, food, and shelter in order to cultivate the mind and body. All monks who practice the ascetic practice of Duda must strictly observe the following 12 rules of practice in their daily life. They must choose a free place. They must live a life of abstinence. They must eat sparingly. They must eat only once a day. They must beg for food, regardless of whether they are rich or poor. They must not drink milk after lunch. They must guard the 3 clothings. They must wear dung and sweep clothes. They must always sit under a tree to think. They must always meditate in the open. They must always live in the grave. They must always sit and not lie down. You can't even trim your hair or nails. There's such an ascetic cultivation method? Obviously, Jingqing has never heard of Ku Duda, and can't help but be surprised. Yes, Ku Duda believes that a person's life is originally miserable, and only through ascetic cultivation can one pass through the sea of bitterness. However, even a trace of enjoyment will taint oneself with the fire of the sea of bitterness, and when one is reincarnated, he will fall into the animal path. May says, the minds of these monks are always tenacious, and their Buddhist doctrines are profound. Even their methods of subduing demons are better than those of us ordinary monks. I suspect that. Heng is Ku Duda. Alas, I understand now. Jingqing smiles bitterly. If we Buddhists publicize Ku Duda's cultivation method, how can there be secular people who shave their heads and become monks? People are afraid of hardships, and they find it inconceivable that they don't eat meat and get married. If they continue to live like this, they will treat us Buddhists as snakes and scorpions. That's true, May nods. Although Ku Duda's cultivation method is very effective, there are very few monks who practice it, and they have already faded out of Buddhist cultivation. Of course, I admire these Ku Duda a lot, and only their cultivation is true cultivation. However, this kind of cultivation is not beneficial to the illumination of our Buddhist light. If Grandmaster Heng is Ku Duda, it's normal that we don't know his name. Jingqing smiles obsequiously and says, moreover, he has cultivated for many years and accumulated a lot of good karma. The pure willpower of the hundreds of thousands of people in Longevity Town might be the last good karma. So May squints and says word by word, we want to help the villagers of Longevity Town build the golden body of Namwu Guanyin Bodhisattva in Jiangchao Temple, and help senior brother Heng attain karma. Jingqing is shocked. Grandmaster, this doesn't conform to our Buddhist dharma, right? Grandmaster Heng, he has yet to achieve fruition? What is Buddhist dharma? May says with a smile, I know, and thousands of Buddhists know. However, do the villagers of Longevity Town, and the kind men and women who go to Jiangchao Temple to worship Guanyin Bodhisattva know? They want to build the supreme golden body of Nanwu Guanyin Bodhisattva in Longevity Town. Do we need to stop them? Jingqing takes a deep breath, his eyes widening as he blurts out, Supreme golden body? Grandmaster, the supreme golden body can only be built by Buddhists who have attained karma. Even if Grandmaster Ci Hang has attained karma, Guanyin Bodhisattva's karma isn't enough to build 100 feet supreme golden body. Ci Mei doesn't care about Jingqing's surprise and says slowly, Senior brother Ci Hang hasn't attained karma, so he naturally can't build a golden body. Even if he did, he can only build an 80 feet bodhisattva golden body. This is our Buddhist Dharma. However, this is the hidden immortal continent. There isn't a single golden body of Buddhism in the entire hidden immortal continent. Now that Buddha has given us the opportunity, how can we let it go? I've already sent a Buddhist certificate to Lane Temple to build a 99 feet Nanwu Guanyin Bodhisattva golden body for Senior Brother Ci Hang in Longevity Town's Jiangqiao Temple. If nothing goes wrong, Buddha Lord will agree. Chapter 33:30. This Jingqing couldn't wrap his head around it. When he came, he was only thinking about how to compete with the Confucian cultivators in the Longevity Town, and how to appoint the abbot of the small gold temple. He didn't expect that when he came to Hanling Mountain, he would build the first bodhisattva golden body in the Longevity Town in the hidden immortal continent. Moreover, it was a 99 feet tall Dharma idol, which was only a little less than a 100 feet Buddha body. This was indeed inconceivable. Ci Mei continued, Senior brother Cihong didn't achieve fruition because his cultivation was insufficient and his willpower was insufficient. With this 99 feet bodhisattva golden body, how could he lack willpower when millions or even billions of people came to the Longevity Town to worship him? Even if Senior brother Cihong didn't want to achieve fruition, he still had to do so. The first bodhisattva to achieve fruition on the hidden immortal continent is in Yu Province, in the Longevity Town in the country of Shi. Jingqing, whether it's you or me, we've both made great contributions to Buddhism. This is something that has never been done before, and will never be repeated in the future. Think about it, a 99 feet bodhisattva golden body. TSK, it'll crush all the other bodhisattvas. Yes, of course. Jingqing suddenly understood what Ci Mei was thinking. Moreover, there's another reason Ci Mei looked at the place where the morning sun was shining in the distance. Our Hanliang Temple's Buddha golden body has always been blocked by the Confucian cultivators, making it difficult to build. After so many years, benefactors have been suspicious. Now that the Longevity Town has a bodhisattva golden body, the pressure on the Hanliang Temple has decreased a lot. In particular, with the first golden body Dharma idol, the second, the third. Are they still far away? Yes, I understand. Jingqing was enlightened again. Also Ci Mei smiled. Although Ku Tuchuo is few in number, he's always been the backbone of Buddhism. If they can achieve Bodhisattva Buddha fruit with our help, the Lane Temple will also look good. Yes, I understand. Jingqing could only nod. Although Ci Mei was only halfway through her sentence, he already understood why Ci Mei was so certain that the Lane Temple would agree to his proposal. Of course, this seemed to involve the secrets of Buddhism, so Jingqing didn't dare to say more. Ci Mei sighed for no reason. She withdrew her gaze from the place in the distance that was even taller than the pavilion. There was a huge platform there, and there was already a huge 9th grade Buddha lotus on it. However, the Buddha lotus was empty. He said with some melancholy, Alas, actually the most important thing is that I really want to know which senior brother Cihong is. How could he almost attain the Bodhisattva Buddha fruit? This is a good fruit worth hundreds of millions. Without a few lifetimes of cultivation, it is impossible to achieve. Why have I never heard of this senior brother? Speaking up to this point, Ci Mei looked at Jingqing again. As the saying goes, when the Tao is 1 foot tall, the devil is 10 feet tall. My cultivation is more profound than yours, but my devil barrier is also deeper than yours. I was lecturing you just now, but in fact, I had an obsession before you, and even now, I don't know how to get rid of it. How could Jingqing not know what Ci Mei meant? He put his palms together and said, Disciple understands. This is Grandmaster's devil barrier. As long as I break through this devil barrier, my cultivation will advance again. Grandmaster helping Grandmaster Ci Hang to attain enlightenment is also equivalent to attaining enlightenment for yourself. This is a necessary step for Grandmaster's cultivation. Yes, I know it myself. Ci Mei nodded. I've been cultivating since I was young, and my progress has been rapid. With the accumulation of 3 lifetimes, attaining enlightenment in this life is not a problem. However, the sudden appearance of senior brother Tsihong really gave me a blow. Ordinary senior monks can accumulate merit for 3 lifetimes. After reincarnating, their merit will weaken. I thought for a long time. If senior brother Tsihong didn't have enough merit, then his cultivation method must be extraordinary. This is why he was able to attain enlightenment so much earlier than me and have such high achievements. If I can help him attain enlightenment, it must be good karma. It will also be beneficial to my cultivation. Upon hearing this, Jingqing's heart skipped a beat. Ci Mei's words were somewhat incoherent, and even went straight to her heart. No matter what, it shouldn't have been something he could hear. However, Ci Mei had actually exposed herself in front of him without any scruples. If it wasn't that Ci Mei's cultivation was high enough, then she had ulterior motives. How could Jingqing not be afraid? As if she saw Jingqing's abnormal state, Ci Mei smiled and pointed her finger. Although they were a few feet apart, her arm seemed to have suddenly stretched out and pointed between Jingqing's eyebrows. Jingqing was shocked. Unfortunately, he didn't even have the chance to dodge. However, when Ci Mei's hand touched between Jingqing's eyebrows, she immediately retracted her hand. Jingqing was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. When the sweat dripped from Jingqing's forehead, Jingqing suddenly came to his senses. It was as if he had thrown away a heavy burden. He was very convinced and said, Ba. Thank you, Grandmaster, for clearing my doubts. Yes. Ci Mei closed her eyes and said faintly, the matter of Nanwa Guanyin Bodhisattva's golden body is settled. You don't have to do anything. You just need to reveal the 99 feet Dharma body. Naturally, the benefactors in Longevity Town will add fuel to the fire. As for Chongyun sect, you don't have to worry about it. No matter how strong the Confucian cultivators are, they are built on the billions of ordinary people in hidden immortal continent. They can stop us Buddhist disciples, but they don't dare to. Perhaps they can't stop crazy good men and women. Moreover, the more they stop, the more successful Nanwa Guanyin Bodhisattva's golden body will be. Disciple understands. Jingqing's face regained its calm. Disciple will make Nanwa Guanyin Bodhisattva's golden body technique my #1 priority. As for the abbot of Shaojin Temple, you don't have to send Jingqing over. Ci Hang instructed again. I've already sent out a Buddhist edict. Lieshan Run is the abbot of Shaojin Temple. When you leave, he will go with you to Longevity Town. Lieshan? Jingqing was stunned at first, then said in shock, Grandmaster, Martial Uncle Lieshan, is Elder Lieshan of Hanliang Temple Sutra Pavilion. That's right. It's him. Ci Mei answered without opening her eyes. Grandmaster, Longevity Town is now the focus of Hidden Immortal Continent. It's where we Buddhists and Confucian cultivators compete. Martial Uncle Lieshan only reads Buddhist scriptures and doesn't practice magic. He's no different from ordinary people. Jingqing said anxiously. If he goes to Shaojin Temple, I'm afraid he won't be able to convince the masses. Won't be able to convince the masses. When Ci Mei heard this, she opened her eyes. 2 more lotus flowers flashed out from light and dust, giving Jingqing a fright. He looked a little panicked and said in a low voice, This disciple has a feeling. If we don't have a thunderous method, we won't be able to deal with the aggressiveness of Confucian cultivators. The aggressiveness of Confucian cultivators? Ci Mei sneered. Even Xingqian didn't have a way to deal with that Taoist cultivator, right? If it weren't for that little Taoist cultivator, how could there be senior brother Ci Hang? Jingqing, you have to remember that our Buddhist sect emphasizes the cultivation of Buddhist Dharma the most. Buddhist fruit is more important than cultivation realm. The biggest reason why I suggested for senior brother Ci Hang to attain fruit is that Ku Tuchuo has always placed Buddhist Dharma first. Senior brother Ci Hang's psychokinesis is profound, and he's proficient in Buddhist Dharma. Although Lieshan doesn't have many methods to subdue demons, he has countless Buddhist scriptures in his heart. He's #1 in Fierce Debate Temple. Letting him be the abbot of Shaojin Temple is a powerful method for our Buddhist sect to advance in order to retreat. Jingcheng was also an abbot. When he heard this, he immediately understood that Ci Mei's image in his heart was once again raised. He really couldn't understand why this handsome young monk in front of him was so intelligent and thought of everything ahead of him. This disciple understands. Jingcheng replied with heartfelt admiration. Then he thought for a moment and said with a smile, "Speaking of the little Taoist cultivator of Taoism, Xiao Yi's appearance is strange." Disciple feels that this Xiaohua's appearance is very strange. Moreover, this Taoist priest has some means. Even Xingchen is not his opponent. And that's right. Speaking of Taoism, Ci Mei frowned slightly. Lane Temple has a Buddhist edict. However, although Xiaohua has some methods, if our Buddhist sect attaches importance to him, his cultivation is really too shallow. The Buddhist edict should have nothing to do with him. What? Jingcheng, what do you think? It's nothing. This disciple just feels that he's a bit strange. If his origin is correct, we can make use of him. It wouldn't be bad for him to be our Buddhist sect's protector. Jingcheng muttered to himself and spoke his bold idea. Ci Mei seemed to agree with Jingcheng's words. She glanced at him and said indifferently, "You're right. Although Xiaohua isn't worthy of our Buddhist sect's roping in, he has some cultivation after all. Moreover, he's definitely older than Xingchen. You should search for his traces. This person has great strength and is suitable to be our Buddhist sect's protector. If he can convert to our Buddhist sect, and then go to Jiangqiao Temple to guard the golden body of Guanyin Bodhisattva, Amitabha, that would be the most perfect ending." When Jingcheng heard this, his snow-white eyebrows raised. He said with a smile, "This disciple will follow martial ancestors' Buddhist edict and immediately send people to investigate." And, after hearing this, Ci Mei closed her eyes and said indifferently, "Go. You only need to remember that you understand Buddhist principles, Buddhist doctrine, Buddhist scriptures, and Buddhist nature. You only need to let our Buddhist sect's Buddhist light of salvation shine on Longevity Town. You can't use any other methods to subdue demons." Amitabha, this disciple will remember. Jingcheng hurriedly put his palms together and replied in a low voice, "Martial ancestor has taught this disciple for a long time. This disciple already understands. This disciple will take his leave now and ask Martial Uncle Shan to condescend to become the Shaojin Temple's abbot." Ci Mei closed her eyes and ignored Jingcheng. The light from the east shone on him, and the Buddhist light faintly reflected and reflected. It was a lifelike spirit lotus shape. Jingcheng's eyes were filled with envy as he looked at it. He lowered his head and slowly retreated. At this time, Xiaohua naturally didn't know that he had been regarded as the best protector of Shaojin Temple by Jingcheng. He also didn't know that once he appeared in Longevity Town, this small town on the border immediately became the focus of a tit-for-tat confrontation between Confucian cultivators and Buddhist sect. He also didn't know that the news of the first Bodhisattva golden body on Hidden Immortal Continent was true. Moreover, he didn't know that this golden body was second only to Buddha's 10-zhang golden body. A 99-zhang golden body of Bodhisattva was unique in the Buddhist sect. Moreover, it was created at this special time and in this special place. It was truly unprecedented and would never be replicated again. Chapter 33-31. Right now, Xiaohua was sitting cross-legged on the back of the Pegasus, following the light beasts as they soared into the sky. High up in the sky, the wind was biting cold, and there were layers of cold shadows. Wisps of cloud were sharper than swords, piercing into the light feathers of the Pegasus, and even into Xiaohua's flashing body. Although Xiaohua looked as if nothing had happened, he was the only one who knew the pain inside. This wind was very powerful. It was able to freeze the true essence in his meridians. Right now, Xiaohua was only relying on his protective magic weapon to resist the wind. If he flew high up for a moment, he really couldn't guarantee his own safety. Xiaohua looked at the distance under his feet. The flaming sun was like a pellet. He patted the Pegasus's neck, and the Pegasus obediently stopped. Only then did he say, "Senior, this little one's cultivation is limited. I'm afraid I can't follow Senior on a long journey. Even if I see you off for 1,000 miles, I still have to part. This little one will take his leave now." And seeing Xiaohua stop, the 3 light beasts also stopped. Especially the light baby. It actually flew in front of the Pegasus and coquettishly circled around it a few times. Then, under the lead of another light beast, it continued to fly forward. "Thy name is Xiaohua. I will remember it." The light beast's voice sounded in Xiaohua's ears. "Thou saved my child, I will repay thee. Thou can tell me what is on thy mind. As long as I can help thee, I will definitely do it." Xiaohua cupped his hands and said, "Senior's words are too serious. In fact, if not for Senior's appearance, Junior and the others would have fallen into the mouth of the catfish. What thou said before, I have heard it in my heart. Thou is not a monster, but you can actually stand up for my son. A group of monsters actually dared to frame me. Thou is much more magnanimous than them." The light beast said, "I can help thee, it is also my wish." Hearing the light beast's words, Xiaohua no longer pretended, and said, "Junior saw that the light baby's body is surrounded by condensed world essence qi. It is impossible to use it. Even if there is a monster cultivation method, I am afraid that the world essence qi around its body must be refined first. If I may be so bold, I would like to ask, what is this technique?" "Why are you asking about this?" the light beast asked coldly. "This matter seems to have nothing to do with you." Xiaohua was helpless. He had no choice but to tell the beast that his meridians and body were filled with the earth crystal Yao milk. The radiant beast looked at Xiaohua up and down, as if it was pondering or probing. After a while, it said, "This place is not safe. I can't talk to you too much. If you want to refine the strange things in your body, you can come here in 10 days." While speaking, a ray of light that was even thinner than a thin thread was emitted from the radiant beast's mouth and landed in between Xiaohua's eyes. While the radiant beast was startled, the heavenly eye in between its eyes flashed with a strange green light, and actually blocked the penetration of this ray of light. "This is where that place is," the light beast had no choice but to explain. "Good," Xiaohua was overjoyed. He quickly put away his heaven's eye. When the light appeared in his mind, it was the location of a certain place. "Thank you, Senior," Xiaohua cupped his hands. The radiant beast didn't stay any longer. It turned into a ray of light and chased after him. Xiaohua was very happy. He really didn't expect that the earth crystal Yao milk, which he originally planned to use more than 10 years to refine, would be solved in one night. He then patted the heavenly horse. The heavenly horse neighed and flew towards the ground. Xiaohua took advantage of this moment to wave his hand and took the Buddhist archive that he bought with a copper coin in the auction. That Buddhist archive was very old. There were some mottled black spots on it, just like moldy spots on an ordinary jade. Xiaohua's gaze fell on this Buddhist archive. He sighed in his heart. "Alas, something bought with a copper coin, you really get what you pay for. I'm afraid it won't be especially precious. Although this story can't be fake, but secret techniques. Do I lack secret techniques?" Thinking, Xiaohua very inadvertently sent this Buddhist archive into his Naiwan palace. However, when the Buddha relic opened the Buddhist archive and saw what was inside, Xiaohua's face lit up. "Oh, Buddhist seal catalog? This is the secret technique of Buddhist sects Buddhist seal catalog." This Xiaohua really made a big profit. Xiaohua used Buddhist seal before. He relied on the Buddha relic's Buddhist seal to control the clear water bottle. He knew that this Buddhist seal was similar to the Tao sect's technique. However, he didn't obtain the complete Buddhist seal catalog. Naturally, he didn't really practice it. Now that he unexpectedly obtained this item by chance, how could he not be happy? Taking advantage of the fact that he was still far from the ground, Xiaohua simply let the Buddha relic read this Buddhist archive. His mind was watching from the side. Xiaohua was happy at first, but the more he read, the more he frowned. This Buddhist seal catalog wasn't bad. There were 3 types of Buddhist seals inside. They were Mountainous Buddhist Seal, Stellar Buddhist Seal, and Karmic Buddhist Seal. Mountainous Buddhist Seal, as the name implies, can produce the power of mountains when used. Stellar Buddhist Seal can produce the power of stars, and Karmic Buddhist Seal can produce the power of karmic hindrances. These 3 types of Buddhist seals have 9 layers. The power of each layer is superimposed on the previous layer. When the 9 layers of mountainous Buddhist seal are cultivated, the power of 9 mountains will be displayed. The same is true for the power of stars and karmic hindrances. However, such a useful Buddhist seal fell into Xiaohua's eyes, causing him to be somewhat puzzled. That's right, Xiaohua's physical body has the power of mountains. That heavenly laws embodiment technique also has the power of mountains. What's the difference? Thinking of the power of mountains, Xiaohua unconsciously thought of the Confucian cultivator's 1 breath soars to the 9 heavens and 1 word to determine heaven and earth. Just like what Xiaohua said to Yu family's 7th uncle that day, 1 breath soars to the 9 heavens. Xiaohua understood very well that the Confucian cultivator was tempering the true qi in the chest. This true qi has myriad mysteries and can soar to the 9 heavens. However, 1 word to determine heaven and earth puzzled Xiaohua. Although Xiaohua had seen the power of the scroll's inscription, and also saw the power of the Confucian cultivator's handwriting brush, it was still far from 1 word to determine heaven and earth. If 1 word to determine heaven and earth, Xiaohua's first thought should be of soul cultivation. The 365 green seal script characters could communicate with ghosts and gods. Each character could determine heaven and earth. That was the true 1 word to determine heaven and earth. Moreover, although the sword cultivators of the Dawn Rain continent also used flying swords, there were also illusory swords and transforming swords. However, when it came to the hidden immortal continent, it was very obvious that the pure flying sword should belong to the Confucian cultivators' Mahis sect. Using qi to control the sword and storing divine sense in the sword seemed to be a level higher than the sword transformation swords of the sword cultivator. Speaking of sword cultivators, Xiaohua naturally thought of Yao cultivators. Yao cultivators were originally humans, but they fused with immortal birds and borrowed the power of immortal birds. This was clearly a human approaching Yao. There was also divine sense, Buddhist awareness, and elemental awareness. Although each of these was different, if one really wanted to talk about it, there was no special difference. It's really strange. It seems different from what others said. Yao, Confucian, Buddhist, and Taoist, these 4 sects all seem to look down on other sections. Even in the hidden immortal continent and Western paradise, the Taoist sect was destroyed by the Confucian and Buddhist sections. In the Dawn Rain continent, the Confucian and Buddhist sects were destroyed by the Taoist sect. They all said that they were the orthodox sect between heaven and earth. However, thinking about it this way, each sect always had some methods and magical abilities that were similar. How could anyone know who was the orthodox sect? Who was the plagiarist? Or it could be said that for millions of years, no one knew who was the orthodox sect? The taboo of my Taoist lineage, Confucian cultivators and Buddhist sects, was to borrow the power of heaven and earth. Whether it was magic arts or magic arts, they were all more powerful than the methods of Confucian cultivators and Buddhist sections. Therefore, if I only look at the methods of fighting, I only need to practice Taoist magic arts and don't need to practice anything else. But the problem is Confucian cultivators qi, Buddhist sects saraira, and soul cultivators green seal script characters. What is their true essence? Oh, and there are also demons. Demons have always looked down on humans, but unfortunately, they frequently appear in places like the hidden immortal continent. What is the true essence of their cultivation? Thinking of this, Xiaohua's brows furrowed. This dispute between Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism had not been resolved for millions of years. Xiaohua, with his nascent soul cultivation, actually thought so much. Perhaps he was the first person in all of history to do so? This was also one of the big disadvantages of Xiaohua's, biting off more than he can chew. He always thought a little more than others. And the little more he thought a little more was something that others could not even dream of. It could even be said that they could not think of it even after they became immortals. It was only this kind of thinking that made Xiaohua's path extremely difficult and unexpected. Seeing that the Pegasus had landed, Xiaohua released his divine intent. He didn't find a familiar place, nor did he find the capital of the Bronze Pillar country. After thinking for a bit, Xiaohua didn't get down from the Pegasus and waited on the side of the road. After the time it took to eat a meal, A carriage passed by on the main road. The person inside the carriage saw the majestic Pegasus, and Xiao Hua on top of it, and jumped down from the carriage. They either kneeled down or respectfully came forward to greet him. Xiao Hua smiled and asked for directions. In front of everyone, he patted the Pegasus' head and headed towards the direction of the Bronze Pillar country. The group of mortals prostrated on the ground and respectfully sent Xiao Hua off. Knowing that there was still a distance to the Bronze Pillar country, Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes and began to understand the Buddhist mountainous seal that he had just obtained. Although Xiao Hua felt that whether it was his physical body or divine ability, he was comparable to this Buddhist mountainous seal. However, as his comprehension deepened, he sighed with emotion. The stone of another mountain can be used to improve jade. This is indeed the case. This Buddhist mountainous seal can actually use karma to simulate the power of the physical body. Moreover, this karma can be ingeniously expanded. This technique is also related to the size of the karma. That's right, if I can completely understand this Buddhist mountainous seal, and use it on my physical body or dharma body, wouldn't it be? Ha ha ha! The more Xiao Hua comprehended, the happier he became. He had already thrown his previous doubts to the back of his mind. It seemed that this comprehension and cultivation could enrich him. Not to mention Xiao Hua riding the Pegasus towards the Bronze Pillar country, 300 li away from the capital of the country of Xi, there was a mountain peak that was not very tall. This mountain peak was shrouded in a faint white fog. The white clouds in the sky also flew to the edge of the mountain peak, as if attracted by the beautiful scenery of the mountain peak. Chapter 33-32. The scenery on the mountain peak was indeed pleasant. Not to mention the trickling streams at the foot of the mountain, the green cypresses on the side of the winding mountain path, and the faint pools that appeared from time to time under the shade of the trees, just the occasional elk and antelope that appeared between the mountain peaks, and leisurely walked in front of people, as if they were psychic, was enough to make people's hearts stay here. The top of the mountain was a little different from the bottom of the mountain. Not only were palaces made of jade hidden in the green, but they were also embellished all around the mountain peaks. Many young men in clean clothes were either holding folding fans in their hands or holding green swords in their hands, shuttling back and forth between these palaces. Not only were they walking indifferently, but they were also flying on green lights. All of them were calm and dignified. This was the mountain gate of the Chongyan sect in the country of Xi. In the innermost part of the palaces, there was a place that looked like a jade seal, and there was a palace that looked like a crown. At this moment, in the palace, an old man with a Confucian crown on his head was sitting behind a jade table. His face was extremely solemn, and he looked coldly at the four people in front of him. These four people were none other than Mo Yan, Mo Jianli, Qiu Jian, Mo Ming, and Ji Dong. And this old man was the head of the Chongyan sect, Shangguan Feiyu, a great Confucian scholar who had cultivated to the level of master. Facing Shangguan Feiyu's colder gaze, Mo Jianli and the other three people lowered their heads, not daring to say anything. It seemed that if they moved a little, the gaze would turn into a flying sword and pierce into their bodies. Mo Yan. Although Shangguan Feiyu wanted to suppress the anger in his heart, he could not help but show it in his words. He did not even call him Jianli, as he usually did. Yes, head. Mo Jianli hurriedly answered. You really did not find the whereabouts of the old bald donkey Xi Hang? Shangguan Feiyu suppressed the anger in his heart and asked again. Mo Jianli raised his head with a bitter smile on his face and replied, Sect leader, this disciple's cultivation is limited. At that time, I lost track of Xi Hang. Senior. Later on, this disciple was busy with disaster relief. I really didn't have the time to look for that senior. And then, speaking of this, the bitter smile on Mo Jianli's face became thicker, and he did not dare to continue. After hesitating for a while, he said, Later, I looked for the legend of the sea god in the longevity town. Stop. Shangguan Feiyu waved his hand. You have said this 4 times. Yes, Mo Jianli quickly shut his mouth. Are the villagers of longevity town really raising funds to build a guanyin golden body? Shangguan Feiyu had just mentioned Mo Jianli, but this was the 5th time he had asked about Mo Jianli. It seemed that he did not believe the news about Mo Jianli. Mo Jianli replied respectfully, yes. When I left, there were already tens of thousands of good people in Longevity Town. Many of them were rich people from the surrounding areas. They were discussing how to build 100 feet golden body in Longevity Town. How is this possible? Shang Guanfeiyu couldn't help but stand up. The airflow around him was so strong that Mo Jianli and the other three couldn't stand still. Longevity Academy has been in Longevity Town for so many years, educating countless Confucian disciples. My Chongyun sect has protected Longevity Town for even longer. Why is it that a simple flooding of the town of immortals and an old bald donkey of the Buddhist sect can steal their hearts? Shang Guanfeiyu really couldn't understand. Even their basic necessities, food, housing, transportation, and farmland were all given to them by the king of the country of Xi, right? Besides, the Buddhist sect has never built a Dharma golden body in Zhongxian land. Even the Buddha statues in the temples are restricted by us Confucian cultivators. For no reason. Why would someone want to build a Dharma golden body in Longevity Town? This must be done by the old bald donkey of the Yunlin Temple. The Buddhist sect must be behind this. Sect master, it doesn't matter whether the Buddhist sect is behind this or not. What's important is that we can't let the Dharma golden body be built in Jiangqiao Ridge. Mo Jianli said hurriedly, once the Dharma golden body is built, not only will the Longevity Academy lose its foothold in Longevity Town, even the Chongyun sect won't be able to show its face in the country of Xi. This is just a small one. Once the Dharma golden body is built, we Confucian cultivators won't be able to raise our heads. The Zhongxian land is the place where we Confucian cultivators taught. Now it has been conquered by the Buddhist sect. With this first Dharma golden body, thousands of other Dharma golden bodies will be built. We can't stop them. Shang Guanfeiyu said coldly. Then Shang Guanfeiyu waved his hand and said coldly, the Chongyun sect must stop this so-called Dharma golden body by any means. Yes, I understand. Mo Jianli nodded. However, before he could finish, Shang Guanfeiyu said, Mo Yin, you've done a good job in the Longevity Town. I've already rewarded you according to your merits in the Merit Hall. The Longevity Town is getting more and more serious. Your cultivation is not enough to support it. You don't have to worry about it. This Mo Jianli hesitated and said tentatively, although my cultivation is low, I'm very familiar with the Longevity Town. I know the reasons behind it. I think I can do it. Haha, familiarity and clarity are not important. Shang Guanfeiyu said with a smile. What we need now is an iron fist. Fools always think that they can defeat the heavens with their strength. However, they don't know that in the eyes of heaven they are just ants. Our Chongyun sect has controlled the country of Xi for so many years. How can we let them succeed? We just need to ask the government to use some means to drive them away. I've only mentioned your merits and not your faults. When you go back, you have to think about it carefully. See where you went wrong and what you can gain from the Longevity Town. Jianli, you are the most outstanding disciple of our Chongyun sect. This old man has high hopes for you. Yes, I know. A gentleman has 3 reflections on himself. I should follow suit. Mo Jianli replied respectfully. Then he hesitated for a moment and said, besides, I've thought about it for a long time on my way back to the sect. I have some ideas, but I don't know if they are correct. Oh, tell us. Shang Guanfeiyu raised his eyebrows and nodded. We, the Confucian cultivators, use etiquette to educate the people. We use poems and books to pass down generations. We help people learn how to read and get rid of ignorance. We build a country and form order. But we don't form a belief in their hearts. We don't make them follow us from the bottom of their hearts. We only set up rules and regulations around them, and let them live and grow within them. Mo Jianli's tone was a little weak. He stole a glance at Shang Guanfeiyu and said tentatively, the Buddhism sect uses Buddhism to set up rules and regulations. They do things with kindness and benevolence. They make people respect them and follow them. Although people are small, there is a tiger in their hearts. We, the Confucian cultivators, can control the small people, but we can't control the fierce tiger. 1 or 2 people are easy to control. But if there are millions of people, millions of tigers, it's even harder for us to control them. It's inevitable that they will be like the flood and fierce beasts in the longevity town. Shut up. Before Mo Jianli could finish, Shangguan Feiyu shouted, Mo Yan, do you know what you are saying? Mo Jianli was shocked. He hurriedly shut his mouth, bowed and said, I know I was wrong. I was worried because the situation in the longevity town was out of control. Ah, Jianli, you are too smart, but your experience can't keep up with your cultivation. Now you are facing a layer of mental retardation. This is both a test for you and a disaster for you. If you can get rid of the Buddhism and Confucianism, I will congratulate you. It won't take you many years to reach the level of master and become a great Confucian cultivator. But if you can't get rid of it, I'm afraid you will fall into a state of eternal damnation. Shangguan Feiyu sighed and said, I thought you would encounter this disaster in 20 years. I didn't expect that the trip to the longevity town would bring you to this stage. It seems that the old bald donkey Ci Hang's fruit has affected you quite a bit. Mo Jianli didn't expect that his feelings would have such a deep impact. He was shocked and didn't know how to answer. Go back and cultivate in seclusion. Shangguan Feiyu waved his sleeve. I am regretting sending you to the longevity town. Disciple understands. Mo Jianli bowed. Just as he was about to leave, he seemed to have suddenly thought of something and said, That's right, disciple mentioned to sect leader before. Sect leader, please pay more attention to that Dao sect's Xiaohua. This senior has a noble character, and there are traces of Confucianism on him. If we can get him on our side, it will be beneficial to our Chongyan sect. Don't bother. Shangguan Feiyu waved his hand in annoyance. He is just a little Taoist cultivator. Even if he has some character, what can he do? He is not worthy of our Chongyan sect. Yes, I will listen to you, sect master. Mo Jianli had a very good impression of Xiaohua. Originally, he wanted to ask Shangguan Feiyu for a reward for Xiaohua. Unfortunately, when he reported the changes in the longevity town of Buddhism, Shangguan Feiyu could no longer stay calm. Thinking about the future of the Chongyan sect and the embarrassment of the Confucian cultivators, Shangguan Feiyu no longer wanted to reward a Taoist cultivator. Thus, Mo Jianli's last hope was shattered. After Mo Jianli and the other three left, Shangguan Feiyu took a deep breath and sat down. However, a moment later, he stretched out his hand again. His slender and fair fingers played on the white jade table, as if he was playing a zither. Shangguan Feiyu frowned even more as his fingers, which were whiter than the white jade, moved. After a meal, Shangguan Feiyu's hand paused. A violent aura burst out from his fingers. The noble spirit in the air rushed into the table with this aura. Boom! Like a hammer, the jade table was smashed into pieces by Shangguan Feiyu's finger. Shangguan Feiyu stood up and said to himself, The Buddhism sect has established a Bodhisattva Dharma body in the longevity town. This is a shame to the Chongyan sect and the Confucian cultivators. If the Chongyan sect can't deal with this alone, the other sects can't just sit and watch. Then, a cloud appeared under Shangguan Feiyu's feet. He quickly rushed out of the palace and disappeared into the depths of the Sulu Mountains. Chapter 33-33. Xiaohua sat on the Pegasus and flew for an hour before he saw the silhouette of the capital city of the Bronze Pillar Nation in the distance. He then walked down from the Pegasus with a smile, and kept the Pegasus in his spirit storage pouch. He had always been a person with no sense of direction. Even if someone pointed the way, he would still fly astray. Now that he had the Pegasus, Xiaohua didn't have to worry about getting lost. Moreover, in this hour his Buddha Sarira had comprehended a lot of the mountainous Buddha seal, and he had just comprehended the beginner-level water escape technique. How could he not be happy? Xiaohua flew straight to the city gate of the Bronze Pillar Nation, and found a secluded place to land. He followed the crowd into the city gate. However, the moment he stepped into the Bronze Pillar Nation, a cold feeling rose in his heart. Xiaohua was shocked. He had already experienced this kind of impulse twice last night and today. The first time, he thought that he had encountered some kind of danger during the auction, and the danger he encountered in Catfish's body just now confirmed his thoughts. However, now that the matter had passed, He felt a warning in his heart. Last night's sudden impulse was definitely not the auction last night. Then what could it be? Xiao Jian Lui. Suddenly, Xiaohua came to a realization. I'm afraid that the Duanmu clan was ruthless to them? That's right, Xiaohua didn't cause any trouble last night. The only possibility was the Duanmu clan. Furthermore, after Duanmu Qing and Duanmu Qiu came out from star-picking tower, they were taught a lesson by Xiaohua. One of Duanmu Qiu's arms was even crippled. Who knew if these people had learned their lesson, and would go look for Xiaohua? Xiaohua had been at the auction last night. If the Duanmu clan disciples couldn't find Xiaohua, they would naturally vent their anger on Xiao Jian and the others. Damn it, since Xiaohua knew where the matter was, how could he restrain himself? He activated the flying talisman and immediately rushed to the Seven Suns Temple while shouting, Duanmu Qing, you better not let this old man guess correctly. If you really dare to kill, this old man will make you suffer a fate worse than death. At the same time that Xiaohua flew up, he had already released his divine sense. When that divine sense saw Xiao Jian, Yuanya, Lu Yi and Fu Jiwen standing outside the Seven Suns Temple with strange expressions on their faces, his heart unconsciously calmed down. However, when they saw that the four of them were blocked by more than 10 people in official robes, and there were many officials in front of the Seven Suns Temple, as well as many commoners, they were stunned. Immediately after, when Xiaohua's divine sense once again probed into the Seven Suns Temple, his expression suddenly changed. A wave of coldness and killing intent shot out from his body like a flying sword. If it weren't for the fact that his middle dantian was also blocked by the earth crystal Yao milk, his anger might have already shot up into the sky. What's going on? When Xiaohua arrived at the Seven Suns Temple, the expression on his face had already returned to normal. He did not enter but instead walked down step by step, as if there was a flight of stairs beneath his feet. Senior, before the others could recover from their shock and astonishment, Xiao Jian hastily called out, You finally returned. Speak, what happened? Although Xiaohua had already seen the situation inside the Seven Suns Temple, he still asked word by word like a thunderclap. Not only was Xiao Jian's ears buzzing from the shock, even the expressions of the commoners and constables in the Seven Suns Temple changed greatly. Even the constables surrounding Xiao Jian and the others retreated a few steps. Who is making such a ruckus here? An angry roar that did not seem to be inferior to Xiaohua's roar sounded. A tall and sturdy constable with a face full of sideburns and a long blade hanging from his body charged out of the Seven Suns Temple and fiercely shouted. Xiaohua did not pay any attention to the constable and only looked at Xiao Jian. Xiao Jian hastily explained, Senior, we separated from Senior in front of Zhaixing Lu and returned to the Seven Suns Temple. However, because we were really thirsty, we rested in a small shop by the roadside. However, when we returned to the Seven Suns Temple, the entire Seven Suns Temple was silent, and the temple door was wide open. Junior thought that Senior Dao Shan and his disciple had already rested, and was about to find a place to rest when Yuanya discovered that our horses had all died in the temple. Furthermore, before Junior could go and check the situation, the constables of the Copper Pillar Nation charged in and chased us out of the Seven Suns Temple without any explanation. Furthermore, they imprisoned us here and did not allow us to leave. Xiaohua indifferently nodded his head. He raised his eyes to look at the constable and coldly asked, Where is Great Master Dao Shan? Little Taoist, aren't you quite powerful? With such a loud voice, I wonder how your old Taoist is doing? The constable said with a smile. Without waiting for the constable to finish speaking, a quick-witted constable hastily ran to the constable's side and whispered a few words into his ear. The constable's expression slightly changed as he looked at Xiaohua from head to toe. It was as if he did not believe that Xiaohua came from the sky. Let this old man ask you, how is my Taoist Dao Shan and the 19 disciples of the Seven Suns Temple? Xiaohua's eyes slightly narrowed as he indifferently asked, Little Taoist. The constable coldly snorted and said, This old man knows that you are someone with cultivation. However, don't forget that this is my Copper Pillar Nation. Even if you have some tricks up your sleeve, if you want to live, you have to watch with your tail between your legs. Perhaps the Seven Sons Temple was your Taoist sect's property before, but now this property no longer has an owner. You have no right to point your finger at this old man here. Furthermore, such a huge matter has already broken out of your Taoist sect's control. Right now, the Seven Sons Temple has already been listed as a forbidden area by the Yamen. If you don't want to get into trouble, then hurry up and leave. Ha ha ha! Xiaohua faced the sky and laughed loudly. He laughed so hard that tears were about to flow out of his eyes. He pointed at the Seven Sons Temple and said, "What a joke! This Seven Sons Temple was bought by my Taoist sect with real money. Even if Dao Shan and the rest died, the Seven Sons Temple is still my Taoist sect's property. Since when is it your Yamen's turn to speak?" "Ah, Dao. Great Master Dao Shan?" Xiao Jian was shocked. "He is. How do you know that the old Taoist is dead?" "Humph. Looks like you have your eyes on the property of the Seven Sons Temple. You poisoned the old Taoist to death and want to set up your own sect here," the constable said with a sinister laugh. Xiaohua laughed. "You seem to have said those words just now, right? If you didn't say it, how would this old man know?" "When did this old man say it?" The constable looked around and asked. "Tell me, how come this old man doesn't remember such a thing?" "You said it yourself just now." This one heard it clearly. Fu Jiwen, who was at the side, did not immediately greet Xiaohua. At this moment he opened his mouth and said, "Even if we are in court, this one will still say it." The constable looked at Fu Jiwen's scholarly robes and pondered for a moment. The arrogance on his face was wiped away and replaced with a smile. Hee, since this scholar is testifying, then this old man might really have said it. "Forget it, little Taoist, you quickly leave. This Seven Sons Temple matter is rather strange. It has nothing to do with you." "No." Xiaohua shook his head slightly. "Dao Shan is my Taoist disciple. Since he is dead, then this old man must get to the bottom of this matter. And since you want to know, then this old man will tell you," the constable said impatiently. "There are 20 people in Seven Sons Temple. Every one of them strangled themselves to death by strangling their own throats. The coroner in the Yamen has already checked and there are no signs of homicide. Homicide has already been ruled out." "Suicide? Ha ha." Xiaohua laughed from extreme anger. "Furthermore, they strangled themselves to death with their own hands? Don't you think that these words sound very funny?" "Funny? What's funny about it?" the constable said coldly. "A few days ago, there was someone who used a knife to stab himself 17 times. He stabbed himself until he was in a mess and committed suicide. This is the judgment of the coroner, the conclusion of my Tongzhou country's Yamen." Good, Xiaohua said good 3 times in a row. Then he turned his head to look at the surroundings and said with a smile, "Fellow villagers, all of you live near Seven Sons Temple, and have met old Taoist Dao Shan many times. You all know this kind old man very well. Now that old Taoist Dao Shan strangled himself to death, do you all believe it?" Although Xiaohua was full of smiles, his gaze was like a sword. Everyone who looked at him retreated. If they didn't lower their heads, then they looked elsewhere. No one answered him. "It doesn't matter if you believe it or not. It doesn't matter if they believe it or not. This old man believes it." The constable seemed to be very clear about the crowd's avoidance and said with a smile. However, before he could finish speaking, he felt a flash in front of his eyes. Xiaohua, who was still quite far away from him, suddenly appeared in front of him. You, the constable was shocked. He flicked his hand and was about to pull out his knife. Unfortunately, just as his hand touched the handle of the knife, he heard Xiaohua say coldly, "It doesn't matter if you believe it or not. The key is that this old man doesn't believe it." Following Xiaohua's cold voice, Xiaohua raised his hand. His right index finger suddenly appeared between the constable's brows. Endless terror appeared in the constable's eyes. Because in front of him, when the finger moved, it brought about swaying starlight. Clusters of dark green brilliance burst out like exploding stars. Countless scenes were shattered by the finger, as if the constable himself was about to fall into the shattered starlight. However, just as Xiaohua's finger was about to touch the constable's eyes, it suddenly froze there. This constable is an evil person's evil words and is really disgusting. However, He might not be the real culprit who killed Dao Shan. He might not even know some inside information. This Xiaohua's soul-searching finger can't guarantee that this constable's soul is intact. If this Xiaohua can't find anything related to Dao Shan, won't this Xiaohua also become an evil person? Xiaohua narrowed his eyes. However, his index finger stopped in midair, as if it was cast from copper and iron. After half a cup of tea's time, Xiaohua laughed coldly and said coldly, "Humph. Good will be rewarded with good. Evil will be punished with evil. It's not that there's no revenge, it's just that the time hasn't come. When the time comes, those who have enmity will take revenge, and those who have resentment will complain." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.